I'm Deon Miller from ABC7, and you're listening to Braggs in the Stands.
Hey, listen here, Sparkles. You're listening to the Trae Tunes Show right here on Twitch. And if you're not, you're better than that. Get with the program. Take that. This is David Kaplan. Rock and roll, baby. The Trae Tunes Show, one of my all-time favorites.
After about a month off here at Braggs in the Stands, we're back at it. Trae Tunes and I are going to talk some shit. Let's go.
With the Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Waddle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought?
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
are ridiculous.
Final score of today's game, Milwaukee 119, Chicago 95.
There it is. Highlight in the low line for our Chicago Bulls. Trae Tunes is in the house, in the building, back and reunited. And
it feels so good.
Well, we did have a karaoke night where me and you sang duets. You're having a little bit of feedback, but you're okay.
Oh, yeah. This is the first time I've set up in a while.
I know, me too. I've been off about a month licking my Purdue wounds and figured that we'd hop back on the horse today, or tonight, I should say. Talk some Bulls basketball. Tal Carcino in the chat, live from her corner bar. We'll see if Carmen joins us. Tal, just tell Carmen that it's Black and Abdallah are live, and maybe he'll hop on with us. Oh, well, we love Carmen. I miss him. I heard he got booted off Twitter. I saw Tal talking about this, so we'll have to get
still feedback right now on my end?
No, you're good. No feedback. You fixed it right away. So, no feedback, and hopefully we can get some of the guys in the chat to give us some feedback as we roll along here on the Braggs in the Stands Trae Tunes Show crossover edition. As per usual, our guy Chicago Rilla. Yes, that is the best intro in the league. Always has been. Always will be. It set the table for all these other teams to have these, especially in the NBA, the kind of intros they have. The Bulls were the ones that set the bar and the example when it comes to intros. So I wanted to share that along.
At least we're the best in the league at something.
Yes.
Right.
Well, back in the day, from North Carolina. I mean, I got to see Jordan play in person twice as a kid. Went 2 times when they went 72-10 in 1996. That was the only 2 times I ever got to see him play. But yeah, it's we're fortunate, at least our age, you and I, Trey, there's some kids that never got to see Michael Jordan play, and sometimes that blows my mind. But we are very fortunate. We got 6 NBA titles out of it because everything else in Chicago hasn't given us much, especially this last weekend. Holy shit.
6. How spoiled were we? 6 NBA championships,
6 titles, and the greatest player to ever play sports. I mean, that's why I always try to remind myself when, we're in the dumps on, our baseball team or our football team or whatever, we got to see Michael Jeffrey Jordan, and, some didn't. I understand the guys that are younger than us that are kind of like, all right, we're over that shit. I'll never get over it. That's why I am
he was
sports
so good.
I am today. Yeah, so we have a special guest coming on. We got some people in the chat. Pat Black joining back. We got DiMuccio, long time, my friends. That's right. Me and Trey, we've been busy working our real jobs and doing our family stuff, taking care of our kids, but we're happy to be back at it. Everybody getting in here. Capitalistic Czar is in the chat. So we have a very special guest coming on. Trey, you and I are huge ESPN 1000 fans. I've been listening to Waddle and Sylvie since their inception. I've been listening to Sylvie since before Waddle when he was with Carmen and Jay Mariotti and the whole bit. And since Waddle and Sylvie have, come to pass, there's been one of the more famous callers on their show, C-Red Fred. A lot of people know me for calling in for my crazy hot Bears takes. It's not all on Mitch, but our guy C-Red Fred, he's got all sorts of crazy sayings like with the sevens and everything. It's hard to keep up with Fred at times, but he's as diehard a Bulls fan as they come. He's extremely entertaining on when he makes his calls into Waddle and Sylvie and even on Twitter now that social media has kind of become a thing here in the last, few years, 5 years or whatever, so it'll be fun when C-Red Fred here, big time caller, big time Bulls podcaster comes on here to talk some Bulls basketball.
Yeah, we got to talk to him about, I heard him on Waddle and Sylvie earlier today. Never heard him sound so down before ever. I mean, he sounded like he was down in the dumps, and hopefully we can cheer him up. I don't know. I mean, just the sound of his voice is just like his, all that energy he has. Like he
didn't have that today.
Yeah, I think the Bulls sucked it out of him.
The Bulls have sucked the life out of our guy C-Red Fred. That said, I did see him on Twitter yesterday talking about, the Bulls will be, a lot of fans are saying the Bulls will be fine once they get Lonzo Ball back, but he wanted to remind everyone that he's only been he averages 50 games a year because he can't stay healthy, and that they need to make bigger changes than just Lonzo Ball or, just expecting Lonzo Ball to fix everything when he comes back. So those are some of the questions we're going to ask Fred. We're going to have some fun with him. I've had him on my show here before. Last year was the first time he ever came on. And it was a really fun conversation. Fred's a professional. So, it'll be fun to hear his thoughts on the Bulls, but also just kick around the can. I want to ask him about his Twitter rivalries with Joe Cowley and everything else. So it'll be fun to talk to him. He just sent me a message here a few minutes ago. So he'll be on very shortly. But before he comes on, Trey, you and I haven't done a show in quite a while.
Right.
I let go of the Bears rope, and I think the last time you were on we were on together was for the Bears coaching announcement, and then you had to go run and take care of your mom. So since then,
wow,
right. And I've been, I went on my Purdue hiatus, chasing down the Purdue basketball Boilermaker dreams that came shattering to an end, losing to the St. Peter's Peacocks in the Elite Eight round. No one sent me a get well soon card. That's okay. But I was in pain, if you must know. And, so it's nice to get back on the saddle. Me and you, Trae. For those of you that are watching right now, Trae and I on May 14th for the Collectors Cave, they're having a big show, big public autograph signing. You can visit www.thecollectorscave.com to get yourself some tickets. What? Yeah, that's right. Collectors Cave is going to be having a White Sox public autograph signing. This time it's going to be in the city of Chicago at Buffalo Wings and Rings on Halsted, Saturday, May 14th. It starts at noon, and they're going to have two former World Series champions for the Chicago White Sox, Jose Contreras, starting pitcher, and Dustin Hermanson, reliever, as two of the guys that are signing. The White Sox play the Yankees that night, I believe. I think it's a Tim Anderson bobblehead day. So if you're a White Sox fan, or if you're just a fan of Trae Tunes and I, and you want to stop by Buffalo Wings and Rings on Halsted, Saturday, May 14th, Trae Tunes and I will be live on the scene talking crap and, having some fun with the Sox fans. Yes, Trae and I, he's got the Sox chain. Obviously I got my Cubs hat on, diehard Cub fan, but I'm going to keep it civil, but I'll have some fun with the Sox fans. And then, Trae and, Trae, I don't know. Are you kind of in between when it comes to your Cubs and Sox fandom, or you strictly?
No,
Cubs?
I'm a Cubs fan for sure.
Cubs fan, period. End of discussion. I know some fans are kind of indifferent about
I
either
just
side of
don't
town.
root against the Sox. I'm not going to
I try not to root against the Sox.
It's the fans' fault that I do root against. It's
exactly. Me and the fans.
It's almost like why I don't like the Cowboys. It's more because of the Cowboy fans.
No, I agree. And then Johnny B, our another co-host of this show that does a great job. Johnny B is a diehard White Sox fan, and he will also be joining Trae Tunes and I for that live show. So I hope all of you can make it. Again, that will be Saturday, May 14th at Buffalo Wings and Rings on Halsted. Visit www.thecollectorscave.com if you want to get tickets for the autograph signing, but anyone's allowed to come. It's free to just show up and harass us. But if you want to get autographs, there's some different packages that you can sign up for on their website. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. So without further ado, we are going to bring on our special guest. He is infamously maybe the greatest Waddle and Sylvie caller of all time, and an absolute diehard Chicago Bulls fan, and a good friend of this show, and someone that I look up to in a lot of ways as far as the way he brings his Chicago hype and fandom. I think we are kindred spirits in that way, trying to fight off the masses of negativity on Chicago sports Twitter. Welcome back to the show, C-Red Fred.
Greg, it's awesome to be here, brother. Awesome to talk to you. How you doing, Trae? Good to talk to you too. I wish we had better circumstances, though. Unfortunately, this has been a disastrous weekend that even as someone as positive as I usually am, I got to admit I've had a hard time fighting the depression bug this weekend.
Trae mentioned this. He said he heard you on Waddle and Sylvie today, and he said it was as down as he's ever heard you. I can remember you being pretty down at the end of the Boylan run, and I think I made a comment on Twitter that was like, man, if C-Red Fred's this beaten down, then there's a real problem at stake. So I think you've been here before, probably in darker spots when it comes to the Bulls. I mean, obviously, first playoff appearance in 5 years is a step in the right direction. But, yeah, I mean, you talk about it. We're down 3-1, and it's like our heads are spinning the way they came out in those first two games. They win game 2. Very easily could have won game 1. Is it crazy? You put out a poll that said, is this season a success or a disappointment? And I know Mark K, we'll get to him later, was giving you crap about, this is too simplistic of a poll. It's just a simple question. There's nothing wrong with that. And I believe it is a success of a season, but it is kind of surreal to watch this Bulls season come to pass because it was such a jolt of energy and excitement to start the year, and well into the halfway point well past, January 1st when DeMar DeRozan hit back-to-back game-winning shots. But now all of a sudden, the way they tumbled after the All-Star break, and then they tie the series 1-1 in the playoffs. It's like this roller coaster of emotion that Bulls fans or Chicago sports fans live in general, and our expectations and how we try to keep them in perspective. Well, they go 1-1, Middleton goes out, and now I'm sitting here thinking the Bulls are going to win in 6 or 7, and then we get that humble pie smacked right across of our face here, 2 games here at the UC.
Yeah.
Put that all into perspective. How are we supposed to take all of this in and try to stay positive about this?
How to stay positive? Well, the positive, you got to look and hope that the 4 players that we have that are 25 or under, the future of this organization, it's Lonzo Ball, Patrick Williams, Io, and Kobe White, can somehow progress and become great. At least one of those 4 can elevate their game to the next level. And that's where I think you realistically are going to see our ascendancy come from, if it comes. Because I don't see any other way that we could possibly, get better outside of, Vucevic. His salary he'll be out after next year, at the end of next year. But it's going to be really tough to, once we give this max contract to Zach, which I don't see any other way around. I mean, he deserves it. The market determines what the guy gets paid. He deserves a max contract based on what other players are getting. CJ McCollum is making an average of $33 million a year. I think Zach's better than CJ. So I don't even think it's beyond debate whether or not he's a max player. He's a max player because that's what the market determines him to be. However, the argument is, do you want him as part of your team? And my counter to anyone who doesn't is, how are you going to get better? Like, what are you going to get to replace him? It's insanity to me that people just saying, well, we'll just go out and get somebody else. You're not going to go find another 26, 27-year-old with that athleticism and the ability to hit the 3 and shoot anywhere on the court. So it's kind of insanity that I think that people are actually debating now whether or not to re-sign him for next year. I think there's no question you have to do that. But to me, our chances are if Patrick Williams can become a star, or Io, those 4 young core players, because we're kind of locked in now going forward, at least for this year and next.
And you mentioned, like, this isn't all going to get fixed just with Lonzo Ball coming back. Yes, he comes back in the transition game, you would assume would help. But, I like Zach LaVine. I have no issue with him. I do wonder, are we going to be stuck in basketball hell with the middle of the road, solid team, but not good enough to win a championship? If they max him, I understand maxing him. You can't, grass is always greener on the other side. Well, you can't find the grass if there's nothing to buy to trade him out for. But, look at a guy like Jason Tatum, who obviously is younger than Zach LaVine, but, a guy that was more a scorer to start and has kind of evolved into this both sides of the court player.
Yeah.
Is it fair to try to put those expectations on Zach LaVine to be a better player on both ends of the court, because you're going to max him out? And, you have all these other guys, Caruso and Lonzo are great defensive players, but our top 3 players, DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic, leave something to be desired on the defensive end. Well, Zach LaVine has all the athleticism in the world. And I know he's tried to work on his defensive game the last few years. Can we expect more from him, or is this the finished product for Zach LaVine at 27 years old?
Well, I think he is what he is at this age right now, and I don't expect him to get much better in defensive end. He hasn't shown it yet. And if he hasn't shown it yet, I mean, how many times in someone's career did they get exponentially better on the defensive end in year 8, 9, 10? It's pretty rare. In fact, I think it's more likely that you get better when you still have that elite athleticism. And he still has it, but it is declining somewhat with age and with the amount of injuries he's having. To me, though, Zach is not the issue. Zach has not been the issue all year. The far bigger issue has been Vucevic. So we acquired Vucevic from Orlando with the understanding at that time he was hitting the 3 at a 40% rate, which is so important for this team. Vucevic, by hitting that 3, brings out the bigs, creates runways for DeRozan, creates runways for Zach. When he's declined to the point that he's shooting 31% in the regular season, That is a massive decline. Like some people, it's only 9 points. The best team in the league shoots at 37%. The worst team in the league shoots at 32%. 5 percentage points define the best and the worst, the delta there. So he went from 40 to 31. So that means people don't respect him. They want him shooting the three out there, and you can see it in this series. I know that's the way the Bucks usually play defensively. They're not really aggressive in showing on the three. They want team to shoot out on the three, but they're not even really guarding him often. And they're just letting him shoot the three out there, and he's shooting at a 30% rate. So I said this series will be defined on whether or not Vooch hits the three. He hasn't hit the three consistently enough, anywhere near it. In fact, the whole team has struggled there. And the modern NBA game, if you can't hit the three, you're going to lose for the most part. There may be some exceptions, but right now we have two guys on this whole stinking team. They're shooting over 37% from three. That's Caruso and Zach LaVine. The third guy in the team is Derrick Jones Jr., who is not known as a three-point shooter. He's shooting at 33%. Everyone else on the team, starting at Vooch is next, shooting 30% or lower. You're not going to win like that. Right. That is horrific shooting. And a player like Kobe White is a guy we were hoping was going to step up in this series. He's shooting 25% from three. It's an embarrassment. It's a total embarrassment. So, my hope is that Patrick Williams really develops into a really good player and becomes that third guy. I do want to state, here's for anyone else who is really depressed and like, where's the hope? In February, we won 6 games in a row to close that month. And during that 6-game stretch, DeRozan was absolutely fantastic. We then lost the next 5. Why? During the middle of that stretch, teams started aggressively doubling on DeRozan, differently than they had before that point. They started just throwing doubles instead of trapping on pick and rolls. So he started getting doubled everywhere on the court. And at that point, we needed a third guy to really step up to punish that action. And that has not happened at all. I know there's a lot of people that love Javonte Green. Javonte Green is totally ignored on the offensive end of the court. He's played almost his entire year without anybody even paying attention to him. So I know he's a nice story, and he's 28, and he's a near minimum salary guy. But Javonte Green does not inspire fear in any team in the league. So he was our starter for the vast majority of the year. Williams comes back. At least I think that he can hopefully build some confidence in his playoff series. You saw it in the second half yesterday, and really get that confidence that's needed to become that option that will destroy and punish the double. Because the double teams on Zach and DeMar are going to happen again next year. We just haven't had enough talent offensively to punish that action.
Yeah, I think I remember I think we were playing Sacramento, and we won that game, but they were doubling DeRozan like crazy that game. And I'm like, man, I really hope the rest of the league doesn't like pick up on this, because you could like see the significant change in the offensive flow like when they were doing that. And I think that's when we started to lose those games. Like you were spot on. Like when once they started doubling DeRozan, like nobody else could step up and hit a shot.
Yeah, it's agree 100%. I actually noticed it in late February in a game at home against Oklahoma City, and that was the first game where I really saw just full out aggressive doubles as soon as he got across half court. And he did a great job during that stretch again, but that was poor competition. Eventually, you can't do that against these good teams, especially teams like Boston that have incredible perimeter defenders who can get away with going one-on-one sometimes with DeMar or Zach. And you just have to have that third option. The Bulls don't have it.
Well, that's what makes me laugh about the Vooch apologists. I get, Fred, me and you have been pretty hard on Vooch all year. I think it's warranted to a larger extent than it's not. But, I got this one guy, I don't know who he is, he's a real person, but he's remains anonymous on Twitter with his shy sports fan. I'm surprised he's not in here busting our balls right now, but every day for all year, anytime Vooch even has the slightest, above average game, it's apologize to Vooch, because we had Buzz from Buzz on Tap on to start the year. And after the home opener, I was like, I feel like Vooch is the one that doesn't fit with this team, because at that time with Lonzo running up and down the court like a maniac, Vooch is coming out. I felt like Mr. Concrete Shoes couldn't keep up. And then his shot wasn't falling to start the year. And I was like, Is it fatigue because he's, it's not a half court game as much with Lonzo. And then once Lonzo went out, it did become very much a half court game with DeMar DeRozan kind of controlling the tempo and LaVine kind of having the injury. And that's what makes me laugh about this whole thing. It's like DeMar DeRozan's getting doubled or tripled most times, most possessions. Zach LaVine's playing with a knee injury. Some people want to be like, well, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse if he doesn't have off-season surgery. If he has off-season surgery, it is an excuse, and he's playing through it, and he should be commended for that instead of just shelving it and saving himself and protecting himself with a contract looming, and he's out there toughing it out. Well, his numbers have taken a hit. Well, who's the guy? The third guy is supposed to be Vooch. We traded, 2 first-round picks and or 3 first-round picks, or however you want to say it, with the players we gave them, with Wendell Carter and all that. So to me, the expectations seem to be so much higher for Vooch, and we just set the bar so low because he started so strugglesome to start the year. Sylvie made a great point. In the game that he went off in game 2, you could argue he should have had 40-plus points with the amount of open looks he had in that game. And it's like, that's, I think Bulls fans just don't have that high bar of expectations because we haven't had anything good for 5 years. But it's like, he just feels so much like Boozer, a veteran that we acquire who at first when we get him, it's like, this guy's an all-star. This guy's, going to be good.
He's
obviously
double machine.
Different, but then their game leaves something to be desired. I have no problem them sticking it out one more year with him, but you're absolutely right. 31% from the field as Trae, I think his internet went out. He'll be back in a minute, but I just feel like,
what did I say?
He's gone. He's tired of this Vooch talk, but I just feel like with Vooch, he has to play much better next season for the Bulls to have a serious playoff run. And for me, am I crazy for holding out this hope and dream that at the end of next year when Vooch's contract expires, Jokic, has this epiphany that, hey, I'm never going to win one in Denver. I don't want to be the next Damian Lillard and rot away at a small market city. Yeah, I can get the Supermax, but I can be even more of a superstar in this league than I already am, playing in a market in a city like Chicago and coming reuniting with my guy Arturas Karnisovas. Am I crazy for living in this dream scenario, or should I continue to hold out hope that the Serbian's going to come home to Chicago where there's a large Serbian contingent, as it were?
I think it's pretty crazy. Usually that's not how it works out. Usually it works out now in these days that let's say he does want to leave. That information is passed on to the management, and he's usually traded in the last year of a contract for a significant amount of assets. And that's the problem, right? Is whatever you bring in, you're going to have to send all your young assets out. And, Vooch, I got to go back to Vooch because this is so important. He is the key to this team, in my opinion, in that everything he does will make everybody better. And his decline has just really caused – this is why we're out in the first round. His decline is the reason why we're not as good as we expected. And that's kind of the thing that I think is a little unrealistic about – I'm listening to Waddle and Sylvie today, and it seems like the answer for everybody in some of the other pods, the Bulls pods that cover it, the answer is, well, Acme will figure it out. Acme has it. Trust in Acme. And my counter to that is we gave up a tremendous amount of assets to get these guys in-house. Like, it didn't just come here. First of all, let's look at Vucevic. We sent Wendell Carter Jr., who had an excellent year, who was despised by a large majority of the fan base, who I liked, though, because I thought he was rock solid defensively. You go back at Wendell Carter Jr., who was the best perimeter defender on the Bulls in his time here? Chris Dunn. That's it. Last year was Garrett Temple. I mean, give me a break. All the guy did was try to protect the rim. He had nothing but people going right through the lane. It was just a horrific situation to be in with the defensive talent. Now, Vooch this year had 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the league in Ball and Caruso. So it wasn't as big of an issue with our inability to defend the rim. That said, Wendell Carter Jr. is better than Vooch defensively last year, and he'll be better for the next 10 years, obviously. So we gave him up. We gave up a number of first rounder this year. And then we also still have the 2023 pick that's going to Orlando. So, yes, we gave up a tremendous amount of assets to get Vucevic in house. Then we look at DeRozan, and it was the trade I loved the most and supported the most. You still gave up, significant assets. Thad Young had a great year for us, and the trade was absolutely fantastic. It's a home run, but we still also gave up a future first rounder. So it's not like these guys just showed up. Right? We had to expend a tremendous amount of assets to get them here. And eventually that runs out. We don't have unlimited assets to get better or trade future first rounds. We do have one this year. We have the 18th pick. We better figure out what we're going to do with it. Hopefully we'll get a good player with that 18th overall pick. And I do trust they'll make a good decision in bringing somebody in. But after that, we don't have a first rounder. We're going to lose one due to the DeRozan trade. It's not like we have unlimited assets going forward. So I'm a little bit the more I think about it, I made this comparison at Waddle and Sylvie today. There are so many kind of startling similarities between this team and the Three Alphas team. Now the differences are pretty significant, right?
Age.
Number one, the management team here is beloved, and they hated Gar Pax by that time. But if you look at it, there were 3 players. 2 of them were on the declining side of 30, getting worse in this situation and that one. And then we had a guy entering his prime at 26, 27 years old in Butler and now Zach. And then they had a number of the young players on that team, the young players in this team, both the best player in that young group was a power forward, Bobby Portis. The best player in this group was a young power forward, and Patrick Williams. There are a lot of similarities between that situation and this one. I'm talking about in terms of the team. Now, obviously, DeRozan's significantly better than anybody on any of the, Wade but Wade to me is the similarity between Vucevic. Both those guys, if you look at it, were really similar in terms of production, in terms of their numbers. Wade averaged 18 points in 29 minutes in 2017. So, I don't feel like we're in a really great super spot right now. Our biggest hope is that P. Will becomes that star, and if he does, then we're going to be fine. But if he doesn't, and he ends up being closer to Marvin Williams instead of a really difference maker, then we're in big trouble.
So you don't hit the panic button, and my guy George, the George 2, who's also had to move his account to the George 3. I don't know how familiar you are with him on Twitter, but he's a big Bulls fan, talks a lot of Bulls, and is always, he kind of, lives and dies by the wins and losses. When they win, we're going to win the championship. When they lose, he's coming up with trade scenarios, and he keeps bringing up, DeAndre not DeAndre Ayton from Phoenix, and saying trade Vooch and Pat Williams and Io for Ayton. I mean, are these crazy scenarios even realistic? Is that something that Acme is going to look at this offseason to get a little because they see what we're seeing? Are they just going to roll the dice again next year and rest on the laurels of, hey, we didn't have Lonzo here, we didn't get a real full scope of this? Are they going to get nuts, or are they going to stay, a little calmer at the
They better not. They better not, because let's go to Lonzo first. Lonzo is averaged 50. He's been in the league 5 years. He's averaged 50 games per year. He's always hurt every single year. He's missed a significant portion of every year. Why would you expect a guy who's 24 years old to suddenly get healthy for the next 5 years? He's an injury-prone player. So you can't just say, oh, he's going to be back and everything's going to be fine. Yeah, I hope he gets healthy again, but you better not just depend on him being healthy and the whole team getting healthy. I mean, that's all I've heard for the last decade. That's all we've had is, hey, we need to get healthy. That's all we've heard about all these players. So to me, I would tend to get crazy and get a little bit more. So you brought up Ayton. I would love to get Ayton. And there are indications that, especially if the Suns somehow lose to the Pelicans, are they going to pay a max contract to Ayton? I think it's possible that we could get a player like that, Ayton, for a significant package. The problem is you say Vucevic, nobody's giving anything for Vucevic. He's not going to get anything in return. You're going to have to.
The rest of the league knows who he is too.
You're going to have to include Williams. You're going to have to include the 18th overall pick to get him. But that's something I would do. And then you'd pay him a max deal. Now you got your rim protector, a young player, and then you compare him with Levine and DeRozan. I'd prefer to get even more crazy, though, because I think the Lakers are going to explore trades with Anthony Davis. And we have two players that could get Anthony Davis, and that's Zach and DeMar. Both of those players, you could do a trade with the Lakers potentially to get AD for Zach or AD for DeMar. And then you'd ask yourself, now everybody I'm sure is like wants to throw up right now. But the fact is, ask yourself, what combination of players is more likely to be bring you a title? Is it AD and Zach? Is it AD and DeMar? Or is it Zach and DeMar? And I don't know how you could say it's Zach and DeMar. Like, right. I think the best two-way player out of those three is Anthony Davis. Now, he's always hurt too. That's the issue. But I think that's a player you would have to significantly consider trying to acquire, because to me, he is a difference maker. I guess Trae doesn't agree.
No, he's found his way back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, that's what
I'm shocked people do not understand how great of a player Anthony Davis is. I mean, he just won a title a few years ago. If you go back,
I think LA is like he's like lost himself in LA. You know, they won the fake championship in the bubble. And nobody's counting that, but the Lakers and the loser fans that had the parade for it. But he just seems like, I don't know. It's just, he's turned into such an introvert, it feels like. And it's like, he's a guy from Chicago, obviously a hell of a talented player. I mean, when they won that title in the bubble, he went off, so I'd be all for a guy like that, even though he's wearing Packers jerseys and all the silliness, when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, I want them to shake it up, and I hope AK, Arturis and Mark Eversley get tricky here, because, I don't want to be in basketball hell. I give them a lot of credit for the team they built this year. I will accept if they want to give this one more year, then Vucevic's contract ends. And then you can kind of see where it is when the dust settles then. But I also won't be upset if they do get crazy this offseason. It's just going to be interesting to see how they do it. Trae, What do you got for Fred now that you're back in here? Everybody missed you. I know.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. Well, I don't know what you guys were talking about prior to this. I mean, outside of Anthony
You
Davis.
ask, I'll tell you if we talked about it.
Okay. So I guess you guys were talking about, if not Zach, then who, right? Like who, like what other kind of like player could they possibly bring in, or who could they bring in to shake things up? I mean, that's a realistic, possibility, and
not on the free agent market.
Right.
There's nobody better than Zach LaVine on the free agent market. He's the best free agent on this market.
Well, who would you want at 18 then? I see Malachi Branham from Ohio State is projected around there. I'm a big Ten basketball guy. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of talent. I could see him having a good NBA career.
Yeah, the problem is though, if you look at the history of NBA draft, the vast majority of all-stars are taken in the top 10 picks. You look at the all-NBA teams, almost always. I mean, there are exceptions, right? You get Jokic, you're going to find guys, but even Giannis. Giannis is 15th overall. So it's really rare. When you think of the best players in the league, it's really rare to find a super talent at 18 or beyond.
Well, at the very least, a 3-and-D. Because like you mentioned, we only got two guys shooting over 37%. So to me, the priority has to be a guy that's a 3-and-D type. Because look at the Miami Heat. They got Jimmy Butler and a bunch of shooters, one of which was in our house. But, they've got all these different shooters. I'm not going to continue to, I'm not going to punch the table every day for my guy Sasha at Purdue. But somebody else that can spread the floor, that can stand in the corner and knock down threes. At 18, that's way too high for my boy Saj, obviously. So, I can be unbiased here as best I can, but at the same time, that's what a 3-and-D type. I don't know if Malachi exactly fits that definition, but more pieces that aren't going to be like Kobe White when they come out, off the bench and
well,
just
the crazy
throw
part is
bricks.
we might have those 2, 3-and-D guys already on the team. With Io and Pat Williams. If they could just, I think Patrick Williams just needs to develop some confidence and just take a shot. I mean, he shows you flashes of how good he can be, and it's like you just want to see more. And
we'll talk about that, Fred. What do you think about Io? Me and you, I think we're one of the few. I don't know why everybody around here got to see him play at Illinois, but people were like down on Io coming into the draft. He falls all the way to the second round. I was elated. I had said the year prior to him coming out in the draft, if he had came out as a sophomore, I would have taken him as the number 4 pick over Pat Williams. And I had a lot of people laughing at me, pushing back on me on that. But I know a dog when I see one. I watched him play in high school, watched him play throughout college. He's always been in the battles and always been at the front of the battle. And, he really showed out this year, at spots where they needed him because of injuries. This was him early in the season making plays. But how impressed have you been with his maturation process? And where do you see Io's star? How high can it rise?
Well, I watched every game that he played in college. I'm an alum of a U of I, so I was absolutely ecstatic when we were able to get him. I couldn't believe that he fell that far. He is one of the best, most clutch players that I ever saw in college, one of my favorite players ever play at U of I. He had a ability, a complete fearlessness. No matter the situation, you felt good when he had the ball. You felt like he was going to make the right decision. So I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. I think he's got a higher ceiling than most people anticipated. I didn't expect him to be this good defensively. I've been blown away with how good he's been for the Bulls this year. But that said, on this team, it's going to be – first of all, he's signed for one more year, and then he's a free agent, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So they're going to have to make some tough decisions on Io, going forward. So that's another – I wish they would have got him for an extra year. But that said, I think he can absolutely help this team significantly. And I think he's going to be a really good player next year, probably challenging and taking over Kobe White's role. But that said, I do want to go back to Kobe White because Kobe White's, I believe, younger than Io. I'm not entirely sure. I got to confirm that. But they're right about the same age. And Kobe White is, to me, a guy who could potentially be like going the long line of players from Bobby Portis, and on, who have left the Bulls and found success with another organization. I think Kobe White has shown significant ability throughout his young career here with the Bulls, and now he's failed miserably in the last few games. I thought he had a great game 1, but he's been terrible in games 2, 3, and 4. And now it just seems like, well, he's out. He's done. He's going to go somewhere else. Not entirely sure that's also the smart thing to do. Because Kobe White, I think, does have the ability to become a good force off the bench, a 6-man, potentially 6-man of the year type of player. And he's still young, yes. And with youth comes inconsistency. He's maddeningly inconsistent. But we've already seemed to have already turned a corner on Kobe White. Yeah, he's out of here over 3 bad playoff games. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I don't know if that's accurate. I would definitely bring him back, consider bringing him back, especially for a team that's so starving for 3-point shooting.
Yeah, Kobe's a month younger than Io. They're both 22.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I like Kobe White, and his ability to score like instantaneously is ridiculous. You just see him like I think a few games like right before the end of the season, like he had scored like 9 points in like 2 minutes or something like that, and he just has the ability to catch fire, and he may not be the best defensive player, but he has the intensity, and like he'll hit that passing lane, and you want to see the effort, and that's one of the things I like hope to see from Zach more. Like, yeah, you may not be the best defensive player, but just put the effort, put forth the effort a little bit more. And I think it's the injury, to be honest with you, that he's kind of maybe holding back because just of not trying to aggravate the injury more than it already is, probably aggravating them. And it's like, all right, you don't think this team can win a championship, but you like the pieces, and it's like, do you blow it up, or you don't really want to? Because when Portis was here, I love Portis, and I his like that's the kind of guy you need on a championship team, and like somebody that's gonna can fire up the whole team.
We got our guy's Tristan Thompson, who can barely dribble, make a shot. He came in his first game. We were like, all right, but then you forget, like, this isn't Tristan of old, and then you're quickly reminded of that as the year goes on. Tristan falls short. He's certainly the fighter type, like Bobby, but skill wise, I
was just about to say the skill wise probably makes him not even be as vocal as he probably wants to be, because he can't get out there and like show and lead by example,
Right.
Right. But,
so go ahead, Trey.
I was just gonna say, as far as making a big splash, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, because the front office has been pretty creative. So, I mean, with doing what they did last season, and the biggest probably regret I have, I mean, is with Vooch, is because we gave up those draft picks, and they draft pretty well. They see talent, so you give up those draft picks, that we could have been picking up with the front office that actually recognizes talent. So not only do you lose, you give up Wendell Carter Jr., former first round pick, then you lose 2 more first round picks, for a player that's underperforming. And it's really a shame, because even if he could just shoot the 3 better, I mean, it's like you see so many of his shots fall flat, and it looks like he's trying, but it's just his execution just isn't there.
What do you guys think? How many wins do you think this team would have if DeMar DeRozan wasn't on it?
Ooh. They wouldn't have made the playoffs this year if you keep all things being equal with the injuries. If it was the same set of circumstances minus DeRozan, they don't make the playoffs. Now, if everybody had stayed healthy, Levine's knee don't get hurt, Lonzo don't get hurt, I think they would have been competitive, playing game, maybe exactly where they are at the 6th seed, maybe. But DeMar DeRozan has taken over so many games for them this season, especially in the 4th quarter. How many games did they win by the narrowest of margins, and only because DeMar DeRozan went off in the 4th quarter? To me, if it wasn't for him, we're not even talking about this first round exit with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, and that's go ahead, Trey.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say, with DeRozan, it seemed like he's such a smart basketball player. It seemed like he picks his spots, and he recognizes situations and gets the best shot possible a lot of the season. When you just watch him play, he's patient, and like you don't see too many players around the NBA, execute like that. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. His execution was amazing.
Yeah, and that's my concern, is that DeMar DeRozan. I think without DeMar DeRozan, we would have been at best a 500 team at best. And I think more than likely would have been below, just back to where we were in previous seasons, the way Vucevic played this year. And so my concern is, like you mentioned, Lonzo Ball got hurt. He gets hurt every year. We got to expect that. In fact, we'd be lucky if he was healthy the entire year. That's where we'd be lucky. We got to expect he's going to miss significant time next year. And so things could – there is a scenario that I do wake up in the middle of the night and look at the drywall over, where if something happened to DeRozan next season, we could take a significant downturn And in doing so, we'd lose our number 1 pick again for that Vucevic trade. And so, like, I think the Bulls need to be extremely aggressive this summer, because there is a scenario where if we just bring back everybody as is, I'm not sure we're guaranteed with how good the East is and getting better. And you look at all the teams in the East that are, on the ascendancy. The East was much better this season. I don't think it's just a given that we're going to be a playoff team next year if we don't make significant moves to get better.
It's right in the middle. It's basketball hell,
Right.
It doesn't feel like hell after what we've been through, the last few years, not even being at the party and, watching these playoffs from the outside looking in, and then the excitement to start this year. I mean, I was at this game earlier this year. You hear the house jumping there. And it was very early in the season. I think that was the first home game, but it was like, I thought we had, Shy Slamma Jamma, and, awesome. I get what you're saying with Lonzo. You can't expect it. It would almost be more unexpected that he stays healthy all year, but it's a young career. Yes, he's had injuries. To expect that he's going to get hurt every single year of his career, I think is also a little bit presumptuous. I mean, each injury is kind of, if you were to tell me it was the same foot every single time or the same knee every single time, that would be a different thing. But, Lonzo Ball has shown how hard he works. Look at his shot release, and his form from year to now. That in and of itself shows how hard he can work in an off season. So I know he's going to, focus on conditioning and things like that. I'm going to try to stay more on the positive side in regards to injury. You can't predict injury. I get what you're saying, though. You can't, just completely rely on it. You got to make sure you're covering your backside, and that's why they need more depth. Io might take another step, as you mentioned. He's not necessarily a point guard like Lonzo, but I do have to say when he was in the middle of the season in a pinch, I thought him and Vooch, he was the only guy to really get Vooch going because they played well off of each other. And I think with the way Io played off of Kofi, I think he, it was kind of similar. Obviously, Kofi's a different player, but just in the pick and roll, I think they worked well together is what I'm trying to say. So, if he takes another step, great. And then you add, a piece or two from the draft and maybe some smaller guys from free agency, leaves me a little bit of hope. But no, I'm more with you, Fred. I think that I hope they get crazy this offseason, but it takes two to tango with, those kind of scenarios. You need the other team to agree to those moves. So it'll be really interesting. I think overall, like what your poll indicated, this season has been a success. After last year, the team was pitiful. I mean, they let the fans back in the stands for the last 5 games, and me and Johnny B went, and it was just like, man, we have a long way to go. And then this season starts, and you're like, all right, we got something here. And it was fun to watch. Every game was appointment television up until the All-Star break, and then all of a sudden it was like, I can change the channel for a minute, I think, because this is 130 point, giving up 130 points a game really was not much to watch for my eyes. I couldn't take it.
Go get Thaddeus Young back.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate their effort in the playoffs, because if they had given up 130 every night in the playoffs, I would have lost my mind. So at least they stifled that, with Milwaukee being one of the top offensive teams, in basketball. So, it'll be interesting to see how it all transpires. Those are some of the things I wanted to talk with you about. I don't want to keep you on all night. Fred, I know you do a lot of hard work with your own podcasts and things like that, but I did want to give you, the freedom to talk about a couple of your favorite guys. When you see this picture, what are some of the verbs that come to mind?
Actually, Joe is a good dude, man. So the first time I met Joe was at when I was on Bulls Outsiders as a guest one show. I got to go to the game. It was against the Clippers in 2019, and I was on that post-game show on NBC Sports Chicago.
Yeah.
So I was actually in the stadium before the game with the writers, and Joe came up to me, And he's like, "Oh, you don't like me very much." You know, he said something because I didn't like Joe at that time. Like, I'm like, I didn't realize he's really just trolling a lot of times. He's really trying to get a rise out of Bulls fans. But Joe is actually a really good dude off the air. He's a good family man. He reminds me a lot of the he beat cancer. He reminds me a lot of the guys that I grew up on the south side of Chicago. A lot of like those old school coaches, don't drink the water when you're playing football and stuff like that. It causes cramps and that kind of nonsense stuff. Real tough guy, but a good guy. And so then I realized I looked at Joe completely different and realized he's not, he's trying to a lot of times just elicit a reaction.
Oh, and he gets it.
He gets it. Yeah. He gets it exactly. So when I like him. I think he's pretty funny. And so obviously we have a bet. I'm going to be banned from Twitter as soon as the Bulls lose. He was going to be off for a month if the Bulls won, and I got to be off for 2 weeks now that the Bucks are going to probably win. But
nothing wrong with a little Twitter break.
Yeah, exactly. Where I disagree with Joe is on, I'm not a Tibbs guy. He's a huge Tibbs guy. I don't think our impacts were the worst two most incompetent, GM tandems in history. If you look at 07 to 11, they drafted Rose, Noah, Taj. They signed Tibbs as a head coach, and then they drafted Butler. That 5-year stretch was excellent, absolutely excellent. And so you can't. I think it's very hard to find anybody do better in a 5-year stretch getting those players because all those players mean the world to me.
Yeah, I'm a Tibbs disciple as well. We are very aligned.
I don't want to get off to the side about Tibbs.
I think one of the biggest mistakes Paxson made was being so excited about Dwayne Wade that he probably got him drafted before we could get to him. I mean, he was talking so much about it. It was just like Pat Riley was probably, you know what? I probably should take Dwayne Wade. I'm like, man.
Well, the disconnect was like we're gonna get Young, and then they got him. And Ron, you're like, wait a minute.
This was back with the 03 draft, right?
That's another. I'm going to jump in on this right away. That's another misnomer. They did get younger and more athletic. They got rid of Kirk Heinrich, who was old and unathletic, for Rondo, who was younger and more athletic. And they got rid of Mike Dunleavy for Dwayne Wade, who was younger and more athletic. So technically, they did get younger and more athletic.
The narrowest of margins.
Younger and more athletic.
Now, Trae's right, though. That was a big miss for them to not trade up to get Dwayne Wade when they were so high on him.
Yeah. No doubt in retrospect. But you can look at that. How many teams said, was a big miss not drafting Jimmy Butler?
Sure.
Bulls drafted
you know how we are with our Chicago guys. He was right here. We knew better, and he was right there for the.
Yeah.
Sometimes a move like that's a big risk, but when you've been able to see him his whole career and know what he's all about,
after what he just did in the tournament, come on.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have got the great Kirk Heinrich, which obviously he's another guy I think is arguably the most overrated Bull in history. We never actually. Going back to it, our 2 best years, Kirk Heinrich had 2 long swaths of seasons with us. The only 2 years that he didn't play with us were in 2010-11 and 2011 and 12. And lo and behold, those were our 2 best years out of the last 20 years. But somehow he's relegated as like a superhero. He sucked his second time he came here. He was absolutely terrible from 2012 on.
See, Fred, you have
your I've ever seen.
You have your trolls that you have to deal with, and we have ours. And his name's in the chat. It's Liam Dutan, but his name is Will. This is Will right here. With his he's holding his participation trophy. Traded a little Photoshop action, but this is when Will's tweeting. This is how he looks when he's tweeting. He's a very serious man.
Guns.
Yeah. He's got guns. He works out every day. No no excuses. And he's one of our biggest supporters and one of our biggest trolls. We fight like family at times. And he's finally entered the chat. I texted him earlier. I'm like, where are you at? We don't do these shows without Will in the chat harassing us or trying to call in and give the shit. So, we have our trolls, but then, obviously Joe, you have a nice back and forth with Joe, but then your other troll that you have to go back and forth with, who, like, it seems like you guys are like brother, almost like most people like from the outside looking in would think you two are like brothers, but you live across the world from each other. One's in Australia, you're here in Chicago. Mark K, he's at CH.
Look at that picture. What a
joke. He's not even looking at the camera. Like, what's he looking at?
Exactly. Yeah.
He's got bedhead. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Giving you the freedom to say what you want about one Mark K. I enjoy your interactions. To me, it's the best popcorn reading to watch you two go back and forth, because sometimes it does. It feels like a brotherhood where you guys have a lot of love for each other, but you also hate each other and despise each other, and you fight like family. But it reminds me a lot of my relationship with my good friend Jake, who is a part of this outlet here at Braggs in the Stands and done a lot of hard work here for me. And he's the cynical one and always keeping me grounded, and always has the little jab that is just good enough to hit at your heartstrings, but not hard enough to end a friendship. And that's what I see with you and Mark K. I enjoy your interaction so much, and obviously your infamous song, which is a comparison to Mark and Joe.
Yeah. I completed that song, by the way, which I think is one of the greatest things I've ever done. I wrote it on a dog walk. I was listening to Neil Young. A Neil Young song came on, Old Man, and the lyrics just started coming out, and I just started writing them down.
I would have played the song here on the show tonight, but I get so nervous with these damn copyright strikes you get on YouTube or Twitter, and even if it's not the exact audio, if you even pull the jingle, the audio bots will find it and give you a strike, because I want to so much. Because Trae, I don't know if you've heard it, but he has a song where he compares Mark and Joe, and they're
hate each other. They hate each other, by the way.
And it's the Neil Young,
Old man.
parody, and he's like, "Oh, Mark, look at your tweets. You're a lot like Cowley." And I swear to God, Fred, I'll be at work sometimes. This song is so ingrained in my head that I'll be laying bricks. When you're laying bricks, you're kind of lost in your mind a lot. You're lost in your thoughts while you're laying brick after brick. That song will come up in my head more times than you'll ever understand, and I'll just have a chuckle to myself. So that's why every time you tweet it, I always retweet it. It's like I'm contractually obligated to. It's such a great song. But go ahead. The floor is yours to talk about Mark.
Well, Mark's a good dude. Mark's another good guy. We started out going at it really hard in 2016 on Twitter about Tibbs. He's a big Tibbs guy. And I was right in that argument. He was talking about how they're going to make the playoffs. When he was with Minnesota that first year, I knew they were going to suck. And he went right down the drain. That's the thing. Our arguments are, I'm right 93% of the time. He's right occasionally. But that's what makes it so funny is that, we do have a lot of love for each other. He is actually a good guy. And that's what I find. So, yeah, he's actually a very funny, very good guy.
He's very analytical.
We don't think we hate each other. Some people are like, "Oh, you guys hate each other," and it's like, not really. I mean, I do find him incredibly irritating. That's the only thing about
You're like Felix and Oscar. You're the odd couple.
Well, I'll be on Twitter or something, and I'll have some incredible insight, and then he'll try to tear it down or throw a counter on it.
He's got every tweet you've ever tweeted. Every time you tweet something, he'll have a tweet from your past that contradicts the new tweet. He has a folder of them, Trae. It's insanity. I've never seen a guy do this much homework on a guy.
Wow.
So if Will learned how to do this, I'd be fucked.
I had 40,000 tweets, if something like that. And I had probably on all those tweets, I've had about 14 incorrect tweets. And so he's got all 14. And so he'll purposely space it out so it looks like these are just, and I did have some incredibly incorrect tweets. One unfairly I get criticized for is on Luka. I didn't have Luka number 1 in that draft, but I did say he was going to be a great player. He had skills that would translate. I just didn't think he was a good enough shooter. And, obviously he became a much better shooter and he's a superstar. And I said that in my evaluation to him. But I've been so right on in all this stuff overall that even he has a hard time mining and finding incorrect stuff. But he does a good job. He does a good job finding it because he highlights the same ones over and over and over again. So
consistency is key on Twitter,
What's that?
It's like consistency is key on Twitter. So you hammer those points home.
Yeah.
And you hammer them to death. There's been so many dead horses beaten on Twitter. You're gonna have to open up a morgue, but it's fun. I enjoy your interactions.
Thanks,
I think you do a great job. Covering and go ahead.
I gotta tell you, I finished the song. Like I got the whole song.
So you haven't released it, right?
I haven't released it yet. I'm recording. I'm halfway done with the recording because I need people to do harmonies on the chorus. Like the chorus is I don't even want to ruin it for you. The chorus is so good.
I'm so excited. I honestly am so excited for this.
Yeah. So I mean, it is probably one of the greatest pieces of work I've ever done. I actually have 20, like maybe 10 to 20 songs about the Bulls over the last 10 years that I wrote that are going to come out this summer. I'm definitely going to do it. It's like an album of songs. Like I have a song called Heinrich, which is about how in 2009 I got into an argument with a 12-year-old at the United Center who was sitting next to me, who was standing up every 5 seconds going, Kirk. And I got into an argument with this kid and explained to him why Heinrich sucks and he's overrated. And so then we got into this, it's a whole song about what happened at the United Center.
Yeah, I have this rival. His name's Cars, and he hates me. He really does hate me. So I enjoy that he hates me. He ain't going to please everyone. And he works over at the Tape Never Lies Network. And my guy Phil, who's kind of the founder, him and Shane, they're my good buddies. And we joked about making a Christmas album. Like when we were growing up, you'd watch those commercials and they'd be like, buy this Christmas album for this holiday season. And then it would go through like the 12 tracks and it would give you like a little blip, little sample of each one. So we were like coming up with like 12 different ones and they were going to all just be Cars, my love affair for Cars parodies. And we never got around to it because I'm so damn busy, but I would love to see something like that for you with Mark or the Bulls in general. I'd be the first one to buy the album.
I got some good stuff coming then. You're going to like some of the stuff I have coming out. I'm telling you, Greg. Who doesn't like you? Are you serious? You got a mortal enemy?
I'm one of those people, you either love me or hate me. Some people can't stand the ridiculousness. Like I said, I'm a lot like you, Fred, where we are so overly positive and our energy is always at full tilt. We call into Waddle and Sylvie. We make complete asses of ourselves. I feel like we are so much similar in that way. And most people enjoy it because, life shouldn't be so serious. But then there's always the cynical one that wants to see through the what they think is the veil of positivity and find the negative. You're always going to find those. You're going to always have those people in life that are going to find the negative. But that's balance. There's a balance in this world, and you got to have those people, even if me and you, Fred, don't want to put up with them as much. But that's the balance in this world. Big Dollar Dave's in the chat. He goes, so that's him. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the infamous C Red Fred. Does a lot of great work on his own, calls into Waddle and Sylvie. And now it's second time coming on here on Braggs in the Stands. Trae, do you got anything else for Fred before we put a bow on this hour-long interview with Freddie? He carved out a lot of time for us, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, I mean, he pretty much laid out everything I wanted to hear. Like, he covered everything. Like, even brought some extra stuff. I really. So, have you you submitted songs to the parody contest before, right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Farther along. I had a great song called Nagy and Boylan, the Frosty the Snowman.
Oh,
Nagy Boylan. I thought it was a great song, and it was about how they're the same, and they're comparing Nagy and Jim Boylan. I thought it was one of the best songs I ever wrote.
All right,
I didn't get past that. I couldn't believe it. But it wasn't more well received.
I did a Mitchell and Displains to You're Rotten Mr. Grinch, but it was for Mitchell in Displays, and it didn't become a finalist. It's tough to make the finalist list for the Christmas parody contest because there's so many talented people that put in stuff. Trae has made the finals. That's how me and Trae got to know each other with his great parodies. He does a lot of good work. So maybe the three of us should put our minds together next holiday season and see if we can get something a little deeper into the finals race. It's a lot of heavy competition.
That's a great idea. Actually, I think this Heinrich song could be good because technically it's to Wildfire. Did you ever hear that song Wildfire by Michael Murphy from 1972?
Sing it.
I don't want to sing
it. You got to sing it because I don't know what you're talking about. You got to sing it.
Sing it.
And you have the music, going around with me. But I don't want to
do it.
It's good.
Do it. No, do it for Mark.
I'm not singing it. Plus,
because Mark's gonna clip it and then use it.
Exactly. Right. But technically, it takes place in the winter. So
we'll look it up. We'll look it up. Maybe me and Trae will do a duet to it.
What song did I do that they barely wanted to let through? Because they, I think it was Favorite Things. Well, I did it based on all of the sponsors that they had.
Okay.
And it was so good. And it was. I'll stand by that song. I literally included all of them.
And they didn't include it because it wasn't a Christmas song?
Well, the first they made this big deal about it not being a Christmas song, but I'm like, it's about a play that happens during the holiday. It's a holiday season thing. It's not based on Christmas, but I mean, it's something that happens around the holidays season. That's like when they say the Nutcracker isn't about Christmas. I mean, but who goes to a play to see the Nutcracker in July? Nobody.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a holiday tradition. Yeah. More so.
Yeah. I mean, so because I was about to say, it doesn't necessarily have to be full out Christmas to be Christmas. Hint, hint, Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but we'll leave that for a
wait a minute. No, I'm just playing.
Fred, thanks again for all your time here tonight. Again, you do fantastic work. I try to follow along with everything you do as much as I can, but I'm always on those Twitter streets chuckling along at your banter with Bulls fans and Mark K and Joe Cowley and everyone else beyond. And you always keep it light and keep it fun. So again, great, keep up the great work. And I guess we'll catch up soon. I appreciate you carving out so much time here tonight, talk Bulls and talk some bullshit.
No problem at all. No problem at all, brother. Good to see you, Greg. Good to see you.
Any awesome predictions? Bulls done on Wednesday night, or are we coming back to the UC?
Bulls are 7?
No, it's done. It's done. It's all over. It's all over. Let's get on to the work in the offseason and make the miracle next year. I did want to have one quick pub.
Have it. Oh yeah. Tell everybody where they can find you and tell them about your podcast. We've been off for a month, so I'm shaking off the rust with my normal exit, to an interview.
Well, check out our podcast. I do it with the Doug Tonis, the Podfather at Big Red Bus. It's available on all. Just go Big Red Bus Bulls, and you'll find it on all the major platforms. But See Red Breads is the site where they've taken a lot of my sayings, a lot of my words, and put up a couple T-shirts. I thought it was pretty cool. So check out that
See Red Threads.
You'll find the Red Leviathan and a couple other cool things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, so hey guys, it was awesome seeing you guys. I love what you do. I think you guys are fantastic. And Greg, all your positivity. I kind of view you as my counterpart covering the Bears.
Yeah.
But we both have love for both teams.
I'm holding down the Bears Twitter streets. You're holding down the Bulls Twitter tweet. It's sometimes it's hard to say which one's crazier. I would say the Bears Twitter goes at each other's throats a little more, but the Bulls Twitter, now that the Bulls are competitive again, and it's been so many years since then, and Twitter has grown so much since the last time the Bulls were in the playoffs, we're starting to see a different side of Bulls Twitter and the debates and Vucevic and everything else in between. But at the end of the day, we're all Bulls fans, and we all want the same thing, and that's a 7th NBA title. You want to ring off the 7s before you go?
7 picking 17, 7 picking 18, 7 picking 19, 4th picking 20. I had 7 playoff wins in 20. Well, I even lost track of what my thing was. But basically, AK for the 7s. So I do think that next year will be the 7th title, because if you add up 2023, it's 7 equals number 7.
Okay.
And there's 7 letters in Arturis, 7 letters in Donovan, 7 letters in Williams, Patrick.
This is
7 letters in DeRozan. Can you see it all? It's all.
This is like the number 23. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, everything's 23. What? You haven't seen? Oh my God!
Stop everything.
That's what I thought of when you were saying all of that. Everything's 23.
Stop everything you're doing and watch the movie The Number 23 with Jim Carrey. Extremely underrated movie.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of what you're talking about, where he finds the number 23 and all these different things, names, dates of different things, and he sees it everywhere, and he gets to a point where he's like writing it on his wall and all this stuff. So that's what I envision on your other wall off the camera, is you've got the number 7 written a million times, and like all these different words and dates and people that have 7s in them. So definitely, you have to watch the number 23.
Well, Chicago Gorilla just said 7 letters and stop it, but he spelled it with 2 P's. Pretty good. I want to thank everybody who had the nice comments. It looks like Faye from Northside. It was awesome. Everybody on there. Thanks again, everybody.
Faye is great. She's one of our more positive and uplifting spirits in the chat. You never know what you're going to get in our chat.
Yeah.
This is the Trae Tunes squad. These guys, where Trae Tunes does a show from 12 to noon or 12 to 2 when he's not working. And some of our shows, or his shows, can get very crazy. So maybe one day you'll have to hop in our Twitch stream and join us for the craziness, where we just talk whatever comes to our mind. So Mark, or not Mark. Fred. I got the mark on the marks on the mind. Look at it.
There it is.
Man, what was he thinking when he took this picture?
Oh my God, he would be so happy to know that
Like,
I just
it's
said
like,
that. But we'll keep that between us.
Like,
He'd have to watch the whole interview to see that, clip it, and then use it.
Let me get a selfie. Hold the phone right here. Look away.
All right. Well, Fred, enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of the NBA playoffs, and we'll catch up with you real soon, okay?
Sounds good, guys. Godspeed. Take it easy, brother.
That is C-Red Fred.
Wow, awesome.
The infamous C-Red Fred that you've heard many a times on Waddle and Sylvie. And, obviously his Big Red Bus. You got to go find that on all the places that you listen to podcast streams. Go on his Twitter handle at CBEFred, and you'll see a lot of his stuff in his bio and on his Twitter timeline, where you can find a lot of his work. So we appreciate Fred coming on and giving his passion about the Chicago Bulls here on the Trae Tunes, Braggs in the Stands crossover edition. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I was getting shit, Trae, from everybody in the chat. Well, one, namely, of course, no surprise, Will. Will saying, I'm not letting you talk, which, you know me, Trae. You can talk as much as you want. Yes, I talk a lot. You fell off for a minute with the laptop crashing. Not my fault.
Right, that's true.
Yeah,
as soon as I get back on, so what do you think about everything we said? I'm like, oh,
you son of a bitch.
That's right.
Just set you up.
Right. But it does feel good to be back. Man, it feels so weird being like over here this long in my little area where I do the podcasting and stuff like that. And to see all your comments and all that stuff, it's wow. I did miss this, and hopefully we can do this a little bit more and all that stuff. Nice burp. Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. Big Dollar Dave, earlier in the interview was like, I think he meant
my goatee.
Your goatee is kind of fire, and then that turned into a little debate about whether or not he spelled it Goatie, and then Beck
I know what he meant.
Goatee,
well, my goat. I don't have a goat tie.
He says a regular beard. And some gray hairs on that beard too, Trey.
Yeah, I guess the goatee is all gray, but the beard is black. I don't know why I just said fuck it and just I didn't let the whole beard grow out. I like cut this part down and just let this part grow out.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like my grade of hair, facial hair is kind of curly, so it's like it's kind of irritating when this part grows out a little bit, and because I guess it like curls back into my face too much.
Right,
I'm always doing this, so I just cut it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you're looking great. Big Dollar Save, clearly an emphasis on the goatee area.
Right, yeah. It's all the stress from dealing with Will.
Yes. And Demuccio, as we're making observations, yes, I did put on the freshman 30, probably more like freshman 50 in the last year. Since we moved in, I moved into our house at the end of June last year, and I tried to stay on the workout kick, but we've just been so busy, and I went to Vegas, I did all this different stuff, and then the NFL season and Purdue goes, and I'm just always on the move, going to a game. I fell off the wagon, and this is kind of what I do with my weight and my health. I lose a bunch of weight, then I gain a bunch of weight, then I lose a bunch of weight, and then I gain a bunch of weight. And so, yes, your observation is correct. I have laid on the pounds since we moved into the new house. And over the last few weeks, we signed up for the gym, the YMCA near our house, because it has a daycare where we can bring Addie and they can watch her, which was another one of the obstacles that was keeping us from going to like Planet Fitness that doesn't have a daycare. So, now I'm back. So now I'm back. It always happens in the spring where I finally because in the winter, you got a million, all the snow, and then you've got the negative temperature. You're looking out that window. You're like, I'm not going out there. I do not give a shit.
Plus, you work a lot more in the warmer weather. You're out there doing all the bricklaying stuff.
So then I just double it down. I'm working out, then I'm sweating, laying the bricks all day, and I lose a bunch of weight. And then come July or August, then I start feeling good about myself. I'm like, fuck all this working out. I'm going to eat Taco Bell every day.
For my shit, right?
And it's crazy because, you'll eat fast food at lunch. If you're working, you go to lunch, you grab Wendy's or Taco Bell, whatever terrible food that you shouldn't be putting in your body. And then at night, Jenny and I will order out because who the fuck wants to cook? We'll order out pizza or wings or whatever. And then before you know it, you just start adding all that together. It's funny. Just the change of your diet, not to go on a diet tangent here, but just to change the food you eat. Like in a week, I had lost like almost 10 pounds because I eat like such an asshole when I'm not on the diet workout kick. And we finally went back to it. And I was like checking the scale because I get crazy with it and I really want to monitor how it's dropping. And I had lost 9.5 pounds in the first week just from not eating fast food and ordering out every night.
Your body is like, I can function the way I was meant to function now that the fast food has been, eating out is horrible. Like for a few, I'll say for about a month when I was just like going to the store and just buying like the salad kits and stuff. It just said I'm going to try to cut out bread and fast food for about a month, and I lost about 20 pounds.
Easy. I mean, it'll just melt off you.
Right. I was like, man, if I could just be active on top of that,
right? Because that's the key. Is the diet is like 70% of the battle, and then the working out is also the other part of it. I think dieting is probably more important, but if you want to get the most extreme fast results, if you do both, then it really drives up, especially if you're working out and then you do some cardio after, because it's not just, cardio. Some people think, oh, just eat well and walk or run or elliptical or whatever. But if you're working out too, it may not feel like it if you're not sweating a ton, but you'll lose a lot of weight. And I do it every year. Literally the last 3 years, we do this diet. It takes like 90 days. I'll lose like 50, 60 pounds. And before, oh my God.
I know, right?
In the chat. Big dollar, Dave, you are psychotic.
What's wrong with you?
My tits are bigger, so hey, we're trying to meet in the middle here at Trae Tunes, Braggs and Stance crossover. Again, for those of you that weren't here at the start of the show, our tits will be live Saturday, May 14th at the Buffalo Wings and Rings in Chicago on Halstead. It's a public autograph signing for our guys over at the Collector's Cave, which you see over my shoulder. Here's their logo. Visit www.
Right now, because I'm going to keep laughing at
www.thecollectorscave.com. But you can come for free. It's not like you have to pay to come. But Jose Contreras and Dustin Hermanson are going to be there.
You don't have to pay to come.
You don't have to pay to come to see our tits. Faye's like, okay, on that last post, good night. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to be the craziest thing said tonight. I don't know. I doubt it. Who knows? So yes, please, for all of you in the chat, please. It's in Chicago. So it's not way out in the middle of nowhere. It's on Halstead. I'm going to I might go to the White Sox Yankees game afterwards with Johnny B. Trey's got to do a show, a karaoke, gig that night. So, but we're going to be hanging out during the day. It starts at noon. The signing starts at noon and goes till 3, but we'll probably be there before noon, getting set up, getting going. So I hope that all of you can make it. Maybe the Carcinos can make it. Somebody tell Carmen that Black and Abdallah will be there, and I guarantee he'll make it. If we can get Will there, that would be, if we can be graced by Will's presence, I don't know what I'd do with him. I have never met Will in person, so I don't know if I'm going to hug him or choke him the first time I see him. Probably a combination of both. So what else have you been up to? Trey, did you see that Elon Musk bought,
it's official?
Yeah, he bought Twitter today.
Man, you have too much money. What was it, like $43 billion, right? Or something like that?
Something like that.
$43 billion. And what did he buy it for? Like, why?
Again, Demuccio, the location for our live show, Saturday, May 14th, Buffalo Wings and Rings on Halstead in Chicago. So that's where it'll be. But go ahead with your Elon Musk thought. He is extremely rich.
Yeah, that's 43. So he bought Twitter for $43 billion.
So now it's a private app. Like somebody said, now Twitter's going private. It's not a public thing. I don't know what that means.
Can we play music on it now? Fuck.
Yeah, ain't it? Jeez.
Right.
Can we at least get a help center when you get a ding or something? Like last time my first account got it suspended. Like you can't even call anybody to like talk about it. It's just that's it. Move on with your life. It's like that's right. Big Dog.
Where is Buffalo Wings and Rings located?
Well, there's a few locations.
It's on Halstead, right?
There's a bunch of locations, but the one we're gonna be at is on Halstead. I'll look up the exact address while we're talking here. But I'm pretty sure it's fairly close to Comiskey because it's a White Sox spot. So I'm not as familiar with the city as maybe you guys are, but it's in Bridgeport, so yeah, that has to be close to
It's average like
White
20.
Sox.
I'm gonna guess 2942.
So the
South
address is
Halsted.
very simple if you remember Walter Payton.
34.
3434 South Halsted Street, Chicago, Illinois, in Bridgeport. So
Payton.
Payton, South Halsted Street. Derek DiMuccio will be there. Our guy.
That's right around the
35th
corner
and
from
Halsted.
Comiskey.
Chicago Rilla putting it out there. There's a bunch of them. Yes, there's one in Naperville. They're all over. But the one we're going to is going to be 35th and Halsted, right down the street from Comiskey Park. A bunch of Sox fans will be there. So you'll have to help me out. Make sure they don't kill me. Big Dollar Dave says they have great food. I know they're good friends with the guys at the Collector's Cave. And the Collector's Cave are good friends with me, and that's how we're all going to be there having some fun. He's got his Sox chain there. So maybe Trae will wear that for the show. I don't know. As a Cub fan, if that's sacrilege, I mean, you own it. So
I do. Man, you know how bad oh my God, if I could find a Cubs one like this, I would be so happy.
Yeah, it's very nice. So again, Elon Musk buys Twitter. Somebody, I saw it earlier today while I was working, and somebody put up the video from Wolf of Wall Street. Where he's like, everyone says they're leaving Twitter, and then he's like, but me, and he puts up the video, and it's like, I'm not fucking leaving.
I mean, like, who said they're leaving Twitter? Like,
because it's like a political thing, I guess, for some people. Of everything's a political thing,
right? What isn't political?
So I guess there's some people that think that I don't really. I mean, capitalistic czar was mentioning it, not political, but it's a good thing he bought it. Maybe he can expand on why it's a political thing, but. There's some people are like, I'm leaving Twitter if he buys this, and then he bought it.
No
one left.
Don't leave Twitter. Please
let me fire off a few more opinions before I go.
Right.
So who knows? But yeah, that was.
You know how many people we disagree or probably would really dislike that have are heavily involved in stuff that we really like. Could you like even with the Cubs, like the owners and the stuff that that's linked to them and politics and stuff like that, like you're not going to agree with what everybody has and stuff like that. And I know it's sometimes you want to take a stance on stuff, but man, sometimes I'm just like, fuck, I ain't got time, to be.
I know. We need to go back to, I mean, I've heard many people bring this up before, but we got to go back to when people didn't know each other's politics. Now it's like the first thing out your mouth when a conversation starts. Somebody's got to bring up politics in some form or fashion.
Yeah,
back in the day, you didn't talk about that stuff and you just hung out.
Right.
But now it's, capitalistic czar says they were censoring political things, and he said that isn't right. So, yeah, that was why he wanted to buy it, was because guys like Donald Trump were getting kicked off Twitter for their crazy tweets or opinions or, quote unquote, people putting out misinformation and losing their accounts for it. And, then there were those that thought, I watch a lot of Bill Maher weekly on HBO. I enjoy his political, conversations they have on there. And, he was really against it too, saying, it's a freedom of speech thing. You're allowed to be wrong. You're allowed to say crazy things. That's what makes this country is freedom of speech. And, but you also can't yell fire on an airplane. So, there is
be responsible.
So there's a line, and it's like where where is
You can't
the
say
line?
bomb on the airplane. Bomb, 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 bomb.
And guys like Big Dollar Dave, doesn't like the virtue signaling and things like that. So, it's one of those tricky topics, and Elon Musk stepping in to buy Twitter to form it how he sees fit in regards to how what should be allowed and what should be censored and what shouldn't be. Like, for instance, not to get too political into it, like Capitalistic Czar said, but like, for a while, like on Facebook or Twitter, they were not allowing people to say that the coronavirus was made in a lab because they were like, this is a lie and it's misinformation. And
well, how do they know it was a lie?
Right. And that's the point, is like people would bring up different things and theories like that. And then somebody would say, well, you're not allowed to say this because it's not true. Well, how do you know it's not true? But that can be such a slippery slope because, when they were saying, drink bleach, it's like, you can't just say anything. And so
but you know how much stuff that if you, at some point you just got to have common sense. And if you drink bleach because of what somebody said online, then maybe the fewer of those people we have around, then
but that's what the society we become. Because like, look at a guy like Joe Rogan. We only get our 20 viewers here on Braggs in the Sands or Trae Tunes show, but Joe Rogan has millions and millions of people listening, and he's talking about ivermectin and bringing on different experts, quote unquote, but you don't know how much of a expert they actually are or how legitimate, you're just listening. And so it's like, it's turned into this culture where, and nobody wants to get their information from the media anymore because you don't trust it. Gone are the days of like before we were born in the 60s when Walter Cronkite would come on and tell you JFK was dead. Nowadays, if Walter Cronkite came on and was like, the president has been shot, they'd be like, yeah, you're fucking lying. Shut up, Walter. I'm going to get my news from Rogan.
TMZ.
When Rogan tells me, then I'll believe it.
And that's what half of people's problem too. Anyway, it's like, all right, you can be a fan of a show and not believe or agree with every single thing that they say on the show.
Right.
Like, what happened to
that's how normal people used to think.
Entertainment purposes.
But now it's become so tribalistic where people can't think for themselves anymore, and it's my team versus your team. Like my dad, he's very, right leaning, and he thinks I'm the biggest liberal in the world, and I'm not. I really am not. I used to try to tell him until I'm blue in the face.
I wish there was no such thing as political parties at all. Because it's like, okay, like say if you're for one thing, it's like you have to be for everything on the left, or you got to be for everything on the right. Why can't you, like say somebody is like pro like choice, right? But they do like guns, and they do believe in the sex. It's like, why do you have to be so one-sided with stuff? It's so crazy.
Well, Big Dollar Dave's right in this regard. It is a divide and conquer thing. That's kind of how our media is set up. That's what pushes ratings. That's what pushes votes, is by saying they're wrong, we're right. This is the side you need to be on. And that's how they push the ratings and the viewers on TV. And that's how they push you to vote for that side. They can't do the in-between game. The independent party never wins. And there's a reason for that, So, somebody was saying, again, I was watching Bill Maher, but they were saying, I think Winston Churchill said, that democracy is a terrible system, but it's the best system we have. And it's like all these other systems that are out there are not better, and democracy isn't perfect, but it's the best one we got, and there's big flaws in democracy. So it's I tend to believe that I make my own decisions. I'm not always gonna vote Democrat, not always gonna be liberal leaning, as my dad always tries to say I am. I always said if John Kasich had won the popular vote, the year Trump won, I would have voted John Kasich over Hillary Clinton. I would have, but I didn't. He didn't win. Donald Trump won, and when I'm comparing the two, I had to make a decision. I'm not going to vote independent. I'm not going to write my own name in the ballot. I'm going to try to make my vote count for something. So, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote, independent. I'm going to pick a. You got to pick a side at some point. And there's other countries, I think like Germany has like 8 parties. They don't have one. Or there's other countries that have like 8 parties. I don't know which ones because I don't live in them. But maybe that's the route we need to go. So there's so many different parties that when one goes off the rails,
right,
they can't hold power. Because right now the 2-party system, especially with it becoming this media-driven, celebrity-driven type of game. Maybe there needs to be more parties, I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, the biggest issue I have with like stuff that's on the right is like the voter suppression stuff that's going on in like southern states. And that's so troublesome to me. It's like how could you, and it's like all the people that support a lot of the things that are Republican and that are probably great ideas and stuff like that, and it's like I know even deep down inside they're like, damn, like we support a lot of the issues, but like why does this have to be attached to the stuff that's happening? Yeah, and it's like they're kind of like stuck. What are they gonna do?
Right.
And it's like it's stuff like that that makes me wish like that there was just no parties, but then it's like, oh, we gotta align with somebody and choose sides and stuff instead of coming together. It's I mean that shit.
Well, and that's been a game as old as time when it comes
right.
to pushing votes one way or another. I mean, gerrymandering. A lot of people don't even really understand how that works and how they draw the lines in the counties of all the states to swing votes in different counties that help. It's a lot more complicated than people realize, and there's political hands at play playing those buttons to try to help their cause. It's not a perfect system by any means, but as someone once said, it might be the best system we have. So that's what we got to do.
Right. Even if the system was perfect, people by far are definitely not perfect, and they're gonna find some way to fucking try to use it to their advantage anyway. So
right. Well, that's our political spiel. Capitalist Star said not to go political, and then we went political. But that's what we do here.
1 hour later, and then when
Trae and I get on, you never know where we're gonna go. I mean, we could talk sports, we can talk politics, we can talk 90% or 10%. I was just asking my buddy Kyle on the way home from the Bulls game yesterday. My buddy Kyle I told him both jokes. The 90%, would you rather have 90% or do the first 90% of a blowjob or the last 10%? And then the other question is, sit on a cake and eat a dick, or eat a dick and sit on a cake. And he literally thought both out very seriously and answered them both honestly.
Wow.
And it was quite the discussion. We were laughing pretty hard and sitting in traffic in the pouring down rain on the highway heading home from Chicago.
Dave is crazy. I mean, if you just glance over every few seconds.
Oh, I see him, but he's engaged, having fun. Right. So, my buddy Kyle, he admitted, not to put him on Front Street, but he said that he would choose because when we said the 90%, 10%, he was like, well, how long is the blowjob? Like 20 minutes, and I was like, yeah, like your standard BJ, and it was like, so 20 minutes. So he's like,
this is so funny,
and he was like, so 18 minutes or just the last 2 minutes. He's like, I'm gonna do the last 2. I was like, well, you know what comes with the last 2, right. No pun intended. And he was like, I don't care. I'm doing it. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, how about this? And I asked him about the cake, which way would he go? And he said he'd choose death. And I was like, you can't choose death. Everybody tries to choose death. And he's like really thinking about it. It's like, oh, so Campbell's are saying 20 minutes. Okay, you need to find a better girl. Just saying. I don't know. You lose track of time. Where does the time go?
And then Braggs just kind of tell on Jenny a little bit.
I'm just throwing a number out there. Jeez. You guys got to build up your stamina. That's your problem.
Welcome back to Braggs in the Stands and Trae Tunes.
I was gonna say this is the Trae Tunes part of the show. All right. Don't put me in with this. You started this on your stream. So.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Oh, I missed you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. In 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, this is Sylvie from Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000, and I'm busy right now. What am I busy with? I am listening and watching the Trae Tunes show. I gave him a t-shirt. It was a large. He doesn't fit in it, but we love him because he's the absolute best. So sit back and enjoy the Trae Tunes show.
Cut the t-shirt part out.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was so nice and till
then he's like, bang!
Right.
Ghost Rider says, small hand motherfucker. We'll have to bring Sylvie on here soon. And shoot the shit with old Silverman.
I know he's got a lot to say.
Maybe we'll get Tommy Waddle to come on next week after the conclusion of the NFL draft.
That would be sweet.
We got the Bears picking here on Friday, and the 2 picks in the second round, 1 pick in the third. The first round's on Thursday night, but the Bears don't have a first round pick. Right. I don't care. I'm like at the point. This is such a rebuild, and at the ground floor of the Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, tenure that I'm willing to give them so much leeway and let the chips fall where they may. I'd like to see them draft a wide receiver. I'm always a wide receiver, running back, quarterback guy. I like skill position, but this year more than ever, right now they only have Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle and not much else at the wide receiver position. So I'd like to see them go after wide receiver in the second round. I know my guy, I've been big on talent. Right. I've been big on David Bell, who had an outstanding career at Purdue. I'm not a Purdue football fan. I know everyone assumes that because I'm a Purdue basketball fan, but I'm a Notre Dame football fan. But just being close to the Big Ten and watching David Bell carve up schools like Iowa, Tal Carcino could tell you all about how bad David Bell tore them a new one this year. I'm a big David Bell guy. I was a big Rondale Moore guy last year too. Purdue started to have some good wide receivers in the last few years. You know, it seems like after his combine and the numbers, he didn't put up very good numbers there, that he's falling in the draft. And I just think if you're able to get him in the 3rd round or somehow later, you know, if he fell somehow to the 4th round, which I don't envision, but I'm no draft expert, I would love to see the Bears get David Bella. To me, he's a possession type of a receiver that could balance well with Darnell Mooney. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, obviously they need offensive line. You know, you can never have enough offensive linemen, as we've learned in the last few years with our pitiful offensive line run game and pass protection. And you know, we need all sorts of – there's a lot of holes on this team. You know, they could probably use another cornerback. You know, never have enough defensive line now that you've lost Khalil Mack. So where do you stand, Trey, you know, as we head into the draft here starting Thursday night and the Bears picking, you know, having 3 picks Friday night?
All right. Okay. They need help all over the place. But I think they got to focus offensive line and wide receiver. Should be probably the 2. I think you can I think they have enough talent on the defensive line. It may not be like elite, but it's probably, you know, enough like good players on a line. Or I think it might be easier to find talent on a defensive line than it is on the offensive line. I think that's where they need to start, is offensive line. Then like an important skill position, help out your young quarterback at receiver. Running back room is fine. Yeah, you got to help out your quarterback because he's the most important piece of the puzzle, and you got to do what you can to support him and put him in a position to succeed. And you do that, and the team plays better. You know, the morale, like when people feel better about their team, they play better. And that's when your defense starts to step up and you start to say, oh, who's this guy out of nowhere? Get to the quarterback. I mean, because, you know, they're excited. You know, they want to get their quarterback out there on the field again. And when you say what you want, you know, all these players get paid millions of dollars, this and that. If you don't feel good about your team, you're not going to play as well. And it's that simple.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I have very low expectations for this team this year.
Yeah,
you know, I'm keeping my expectations at a Will
I just want to
Dutan
see him
level.
compete and get better. Like, you know,
and that doesn't necessarily mean in the win column. I was talking with some guys about this over the weekend.
Yeah, this look like an NFL team.
Look competent. You know, if they played every game like they did the second half of that Steelers game at Pittsburgh where they lost at the end, but Justin Fields went off. You know, if they played every game like that, if they played every single game like that and they lost every single game, obviously we're going to be mad to a certain degree, but I would take that as opposed to if they have any games where they look like how they looked against the Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
you know,
right.
So
it's like, oh my God, like this is the first time you all met?
Right.
Like, hi.
That's where I stand. Just look competent. You know, this guy has a lot of similarities to like some of the rules that he has for a team in the way that Lovie Smith did with his hits, HITTS, however, whatever acronym it is. It's basically, you know, a charting system of no slouching, you know, no always go and pick up the loose ball and all the little things that the attention to detail stuff that was missing here over the last few years. And, you know, so it'll be interesting to see how this team forms to Matt Eberflus. It'll be interesting to see how Ryan Poles builds it. I'll probably screw that name up 9 million times, but you know, you got to give them time. And everyone wants to have an instant knee-jerk reaction. They get rid of Khalil Mack. They don't make enough moves. Let's see who they draft. And everyone's going to have who they want. And if they don't get them, they're going to be critical. to me, I'm not going to be overly critical about anything they do until I get the full scope of this thing. And then we get into next off season. You have an idea of where the team's at, what needs they need to get. And then you can start to make more of a determination on, what they need to do. And if they don't do those things, are they doing a good enough job? And then be more critical. I can't be overly critical at this point. I just think it's people racing to be right first, and people that are like, oh, Ryan Poles is already doing a horrendous job. They're just saying that now.
We get to the draft yet.
Right. If it ends up becoming the case 2 years from now, they can be like, I told you.
Right.
And then it's also the other way around, for the people that are like, fully behind everything they're doing.
Yeah, they haven't had a chance to do anything yet.
Especially on Bears Twitter. It's just a race. Everyone's in a race to be right.
Right.
You know me. I've been wrong about a million things. I'm gonna be wrong about a million more things. So I'm not in that race. I don't do that race.
One thing I could say I like about what they have done is that it looks like they are trying to do something. I mean, whatever that means. I mean, they're making moves. And it seems like they made a decisive decision, and they didn't just come in like, oh, what are we
right?
gonna do?
I mean, to trade Khalil Mack is pretty ballsy, and it shows that they're ready to flip this roster. And some people are like, well, they didn't get enough for Khalil Mack. Well, I don't know what they could have got for Khalil Mack. I'm not going to pretend like I do know what they could have. I don't know what conversations are going on behind closed doors. Some say they traded him too fast, that they could have built a market up for him. Okay. At the end of the day, I am going to trust these guys and let these guys have their time to make their moves and build this up and then see where the chips are at the end of the season, or at least going into next season. I think will be a better determination. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst. Next year they get a first round pick again. They haven't had a first round pick since they traded for Khalil Mack.
Yeah, we're still suffering from stuff that Pace did.
And look at the Bengals. They got Joe Burrow. They didn't have that great of a season his rookie year. I know Justin Fields is no longer a rookie, but he had to put up with Matt Nagy. I'm not going to say it doesn't count, but it doesn't count. And now
I would like to say he learned something.
Yeah, I mean he learned to play in the league. He learned the speed of the game. He got some acclimation to his teammates. That's what happened with Mitch. Mitch was with John Fox, and then they fired him and brought in Matt Nagy, and they took off together. Yeah, do I think that's going to happen this year for Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus? No, I think this team is much further away from being a competitive team, although you just never know in the NFL. At the same time, like I said, just going back to the Cincinnati Bengals, template, they weren't a very good team. They had a top 10 pick. They take Jamar Chase in the top 10. He ends up being one of the best rookie wide receivers ever. And they get, inches away from a Super Bowl championship. So if the Bears don't win a lot of games this year, as frustrating as it will be in the moment, it may not be the worst thing in the world for that to happen. I don't care what happens. I'm not rooting for anything necessarily. But if that were to happen, because this team is in such a rebuild and they're so young and they have so many holes and they're trying to build it up through the draft and not overpay for guys like Jimmy Graham and, all respect to Robert Quinn, who had a great year last year, but guys like that, and they're just trying to go young and rebuild it, I'm going to roll with it. I mean, the Cubs, they rebuilt it. They tore it from the ground up, Theo Epstein, and they brought in all these prospects that we all had to watch in the minor leagues, and they're like, get ready, Chris Bryant and Jorge Soler, and all these guys are coming. And at the time, all we had was Starlin Castro and Anthony Rizzo in the big leagues. We had all these young guys waiting in the wings in the minor leagues. Well, you just had to trust the system. Then they all came up, and all of a sudden the Cubs grab a veteran pitcher and John Lesser, and all of a sudden they win a World Series. I mean, I'm not saying that's how it works for every team, but That's kind of what I'm looking at with this Bears team. Build it from the ground up. Get these young guys going. Make your decision on what you're going to do with David Montgomery as he's entering his contract season at the end of this year. He'll be a free agent, I believe. Are you going to pay him? Are you not going to pay him? Most teams don't give a lot of money to running back. You have Khalil Herbert, who flashed for a handful of games as a running back behind him. So there's a lot of decisions to be made. And I think you have to give Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus the opportunity to feel this team out in their first year. The only thing that is disconcerting is you're wasting more years with Justin Fields, who's this dynamic talent. So that is the one thing that I really would like to see overall, outside of the wins or losses or however it shakes out, is just a steady improvement to Justin Fields' game, because he had flashes last year. But did he have a game where that was the game where you were like, yes, the Steelers' second half was incredible. They still lost that game.
Yeah.
You're going to have a couple games where he throws for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and they win. Or, how I don't know. But that's what I'm going to be looking at more than anything is Justin Fields ascending in the right way.
Yeah, I guess, we will see. But the talent's there. You just got to see what these new coaches can do with him in his second year. And you just hope that he can progress and, be able to do the psychological things. Like physically the talent's all there. Is he going to be able to read these defenses and, these exotic coverages and blitzes and feel the pressure coming off his backside and blind side and all that stuff like that, which is like the little things that, make quarterbacks great. When you even like when I look at a player like Russell Wilson and you just see him out there like every week, like even like win, lose, but you don't see like too many games lost because of him in particular.
Right.
Like he's always out there. He's always going to be competitive. He, put his team in a good situation. Like, no, they're not perfect, but when I look at his game, that's kind of like what I want to see out of Justin Fields a little bit.
That'd be great.
Yeah, like a sweet, like deep ball and like get a connection with your players and all that. And I see like Capilazar had a lot to say over there. Yeah, like when I was it's like stuff before that. Like, but when you say he needs to learn, who do you think is teaching him? His coaches.
Right.
And when Nagy, was just absolutely horrendous as a coach for the Bears.
It's totally unfair to Fields to make a declaration on him when Matt Nagy, who was on his way out, coaching like he was on his last limb, is the guy developing him. He completely botched his beginning of his development by splitting the reps all through preseason and training camp with Andy Dalton, who was never going to be a starter for the whole season, which was his plan. And had Andy Dalton never got hurt, Andy Dalton would have been the starter for much longer. And then, Matt Nagy would have been able to CYA cover his ass into this year, because he would have been like, yeah, well, we've got Justin cooking in the pot. He's ready to go. And you wouldn't know if he can't read a defense because he would have never been out there. And what he really did was do a disservice to him by not just giving him the first team reps all through the preseason and training camp and having him ready to start the year. Instead, he split the reps with a rookie who's trying to learn the speed of the game, trying to learn chemistry with his teammates, and then dropping him in the bucket to start the year with half reps that the rest of the starters in the league got full reps for, and then expecting him to go out there and compete and win games, and save his coach's ass for a season. Reading the blitz, it is, I don't know what you're trying to say here, but unless he's arguing with somebody in the chat, but I'm sorry, I'm going to give Justin Fields the benefit of the doubt. Matt Nagy got the benefit of the doubt when Mitch Trubisky was here because everyone was assured that it was all on Mitch. And all I ever tried to say calling into Waddle and Sylvie and was widely mocked by those guys and Black and Abdallah and everybody else that, wanted to put everything on Mitch and how terrible he was, because there's another guy that couldn't read a defense, can't throw downfield, can't, because it ain't Matt Nagy's fault. Well, Matt Nagy then has Fields. Obviously, Fields is a rookie, but isn't able to get anything really out of him in a lot of ways. Because, like I said, I think Fields could have had a much better rookie season, and he didn't. And, Capitalistic Czar wants to put that on Fields. I'm going to put that on Nagy. I'm giving Fields the benefit of the doubt. But this is kind of how it switches. Like I said, it was John Fox, and it wasn't on Mitch. Then it was on Mitch Trubisky and not on Matt Nagy. Then you get Mitch out, and then it's on Matt Nagy and not Justin Fields. Well, guess what the next shoe is to drop? If Justin Fields doesn't play well this year or doesn't show significant or at least steady improvement, you're going to have a lot more people like Capitalistic Czar saying, he can't read the blitz and had to bail in the pocket. He doesn't have ball security. He's a bust. And then they'll start blaming Fields. It'll go back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, but when you look at things like ball security, right? And when they make a lot about the stories that, like a whole big thing with his footwork, about him leading with his left foot instead of his right foot, like when he was throwing passes or something. And so I started to look up about quarterback footwork. And when I started to see what quarterback footwork and 3-step drops and 5-step drops are really all about, it's really about timing. And it's like, you don't take 5 steps back just because, like, oh, I want to be at this spot. But it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not my receiver should be right here. And it's like you're giving that step drop back is because, like, they're supposed to be at a certain place by the time you take 5 steps.
Sure.
And it's like, when you realize how important like little things like that is, and when you have the right coaches in place to implement things like that, like, okay, lead with this foot. Your footwork's important. It's not just about, I mean, of course it's about making a good pass, but how can you make a good pass when your time is off, when you're looking at the wrong place at the wrong time?
Right.
Because that 1 second you're doing this, they could have been open, and like, instead of that, now you're looking like you're struggling out there.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to give it to the benefit of the doubt because I believe Matt Nagy's system was broken. Yeah, and no, I'm not saying Capitalistic Czar. I'm not saying you said he is a bust. I'm saying that it'll go that way if we don't start to see Fields make improvement at some point. Last year it was we're going to blame Nagy and give Fields the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Now the next guy that's going to have the turn in the bucket is going to be Fields if it doesn't work out. Yeah. People will point to Fields before they point to the coaches because of the common denominator factor. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, you say, see, and I think he reads coverage as well. It's the blitz. That's fine. But let's see it in a competent system because Matt Nagy never understood how to run the ball. This is the same coach that came here and had a game where they ran the ball for a franchise low 7 times against the Saints.
Walter Payton bobblehead.
Yeah, on Walter Payton bobblehead day, they ran for a franchise low 7 rushes, 2 of which were jet sweeps, in a game that was a 1-possession game at halftime. No reason to abandon the run. And then he had the audacity to come to the podium and say, well, I didn't come here to run the I formation. That's all you need to know about Matt Nagy. Everything else is window dressing. I don't care. That's all you need to know about Matt Nagy, and to know that he had no idea how to run a balanced offense. I mean, look at the San Francisco 49ers. they get all the way to the NFC Championship and lose to the Rams with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's an average quarterback.
Right.
And they have a system in place that gets the most out of their offense. Justin Fields has mobility, and how many times did we say, get him out of the pocket, rolling? This is the same stuff they'd say about Mitch. They're saying the same thing with Justin Fields, have him rolling out of the
Jay
pocket.
Cutler, it's like,
right.
I felt like they did Jay such a disservice there. I felt like I'm not gonna say Jay Cutler was a great quarterback, but he was talented enough for the Bears to make some noise in the NFC North and the NFC in particular. They made it to the NFC Championship.
Well, to Jay's credit, his buddy Greg Olson they had here, and then they traded him away when Mike Martz came here and said, I can't. He's not a tight end that fits my system. So Mike Martz was trying to force his system to a team that maybe necessarily didn't have the same pieces as those Rams teams when he was the offensive coordinator. But to Jay's credit, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Jay, but to Jay's credit, when they got rid of his buddy Greg Olson and then they forced the Martz system, he made it work. So, it all went off the rails when Mark Trestman came here. But I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, they got to have a system in place. And then they got to find the pieces to
four
fit.
Different systems
Right.
His time.
And to me, Matt Nagy's problem was he only knew one way to win football, and that was the Kansas City Chiefs way. And he probably didn't know that system as well as maybe he thought he did. Now he leaves. Did you see any teams calling to pick up? Everyone laughed. Mitch Trubisky last year gets a 1-year deal to be a bench player for the Bills. Well, now he's a starter again, at least potentially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Matt Nagy was on the free agent wire for any team to pick him up to be an offensive coordinator. He's been an offensive head coach for the last 4 years. They get to the playoffs twice, or 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. And he goes on the waiver wire and nobody picks him up, and Andy Reid has to bring him back to Kansas City to be on his staff because the league saw what they saw from him. So it's going to be interesting to see how, Justin Fields does without Matt Nagy. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because I think Matt Nagy's system was broken, and I think the team wasn't playing for him. I had a lot of arguments with guys on Bears Twitter last year, but I think they were done with him. I think that they all thought that Nagy should have been fired the year before. They get Justin Fields, so then they're like, okay, let's give this a roll. Then Justin Fields comes out for the Browns game, and Matt Nagy tries to run an offense that isn't catered to Justin Fields. And I think at that moment, the whole team was like, we're washing our hands of you, Matt Nagy. Everything you say is, falling on deaf ears. That's how I saw it play out. I'm fairly close. I'm not in the locker room, but having been fairly close to this team the last 4 years, that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I would kind of go against you a little bit on that because for this reason, like they didn't have as many veterans on this team. I mean, they had a couple, like that came from, but like when you have players like David Montgomery, who probably played his ass off.
Well, Dave Montgomery's going to run through a brick wall no matter what. That's just the type of guy he is.
And he was probably sad to see him go because, for this reason, not because he thinks Matt Nagy is a good coach, just because he took a chance on drafting him. When you look at players like that,
but I think Dave Montgomery's the type that'll run through a brick wall no matter what.
Well, hopefully,
that's just how he's built.
Yeah.
He's crazy passionate. And then for the rest of the team, don't forget that this is a contract incentive league. Their contract is performance based in a lot of ways. Yeah. They have a base contract and then they have incentives within that contract. Not only that, but you're also, if you're on your way out from this team, you're trying to put out good tape for the next team to get you.
Well, shit, Allen Robinson sure as hell wasn't trying to put out tape.
Yeah.
And that's the one person I was pretty upset.
And where
after
did he
being
end
a
up?
big the Rams.
He went to the Rams, so
Yeah.
he's gonna be all. He's gonna
be okay.
Be all right.
Right. But I was so upset with his effort. Like I used to like. I'm pretty sure there's probably YouTube clips about his route running last year. I'm like, what the hell are you doing out there?
Something tells me Allen Robinson's gonna have a
Yeah,
pretty
he's gonna be
decent
okay.
year next year. He's gonna have a pretty decent year next year.
Last year, I mean, yeah, you got franchise tag. Boo hoo, you got $18 million. I mean, but like I said, like some people, like it is like, yeah, you're still getting paid to do a job. But the year before, I seen his effort before, so I know what it looks like, especially with him in particular. The past couple of years, last year, none of that.
Right.
He was a shell of himself as far as like effort and running routes.
No,
he was
done.
Down the
he didn't
field.
want to play. He didn't want to play for Matt Nagy. And he didn't want to play for the Bears anymore.
It's one play where he just completely just said, "I'm not going to block shit." Like it was I forgot who.
And that's what I'm saying. I think Nagy lost the locker room. Some people push back on that on me. I don't really care. I think that the locker room had no respect. They could have cared less, and they all just were playing out the string. And some of them probably trying to play hard for different personal reasons, or some of them trying to play hard for Justin Fields on the offensive side. Who knows? But I'm glad they hit the reset button, and I'm willing to keep an open mind on this season is my overall point. I'm going to keep my expectations low. If they surprise me, great. If they fall short of things, if my expectations get too high, like the Bulls season this year, then I'm going to remember where I was at this point.
The Bulls gave you a reason to feel that way. The way they played earlier on, Jesus.
Right. But I'm saying if the Bears they start 3-0. I mean, you never know in the NFL. Let's say they start 3-0 out of some miracle, and then all of a sudden people are like doing the math in their head about how they can make the playoffs, and then just like the Bulls, they fall short, or whatever. I don't know how. I know none of that's gonna happen.
I know, even if it does, we'll see when the schedule comes out. When the schedule come out, like probably this week, right?
A couple weeks, like first or second week of May after.
Okay.
Yeah. So Will be the first.
I mean, it's not like we're going to have the hardest schedule anyway. They finished in third, right? So yeah, we're playing Atlanta. We're playing. Well, I guess do we play the Browns?
I don't know. We'll find out.
I forgot I knew all the teams that we played. I just can't remember. Well, like you usually can just go by. Oh, we play the AFC,
right?
North and is it the AFC? No, we played the AFC North last year.
Yeah, it's not gonna be the North, but regardless,
I know it's the NFC, NFC South, and I think we play the NFC East. Yeah, because we play the Giants and the Cowboys again next. Why do we seem like we play the Giants every year?
The Giants every year.
NFC East.
So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll text Waddle and see if he'll come on next week to talk a little Bears draft. See if me and Trey can find a day that works for the both of us. I don't know. Is Monday good for you next week? Maybe I can see if Waddle's available for a Monday night special. We bring on our guy Tommy Waddle. We'll see, or somebody that covers football in some capacity. I don't know what else you got, Trey. I mean, I did want to give a shout out to my guys at CHGO. They're a new sports media outlet here in Chicago. They just launched about a month and a half ago or so. And they do Bulls, Bears, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks. That's right, Trey. CHGO. My guy, Kevin Kadick over there doing his thing, building up this brand. And they have a newsletter you can sign up for. They have a lot of different cool things. They have a great roster of talent that covers all the different sports. For the Bears, they have Adam Hogue and Olin Kreutz on there. They do pre and post game shows for all their sports, whether it's White Sox, Cubs, Bulls, Bears to come. And
Cruz getting more than 15 an hour.
Maybe Cruz is getting more than 15 an hour. That's right. Big Dollar Dave, CHGO. And I want to give them a shout out because they invited me into their studios here. Ooh. As you see from this picture I took. Just last week, I was able to go on live with them, and we did a Bears all-time draft. It was me and Kevin and Jake Flanagan, their GM, and then Herb Lawrence, who's a guy that does their White Sox coverage and former 670 The Score guy. He was at 670. It feels like forever.
Not to cut you off, but this is the first question I got. Who was the first quarterback and when were they taken?
So the first quarterback taken, I should have brought up the graphic on my to bring on the show here today.
152nd pick, the first quarterback comes off the board.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can pull this off real quick. But you're gonna have to bear with me for 1 second.
All right, let's see if I can do my favorite Braggs impression and just talk, for a little bit while he gets what happened? Oh, okay. All right. Kind of switched it up on us there, all right. So late arrival was Beck and John is in the building. What's up, Beck and John? Yeah, we just been chatting it up. We had C-Red Fred on earlier. Will was in here, but I think I don't know if he's still who's still in here. I know we got Capilazar, we got Big Dollar Dave, we got
some guys in here.
Ghost is still in here. What's up, Ghost?
Becky
was in here earlier too. Yeah, I just couldn't say a whole lot because I didn't want to cut off. See Red Fred in the middle of a sentence.
Greg.
Hey, Becky.
Greg talking too much. But yeah, like I said, I was in the CHGO studios. Here's the studios, beautiful studios, just over by the United Center. Pretty sweet stuff. Again, they're CHGO. Here was the draft board that we had, and it was a snake draft. So it started with Herb, then Jake, then me, and then Kevin, and then worked its way back. So what the craziest part, the most controversial part of this whole draft, obviously you can see it at the top, but Herb Lawrence took Dan Hampton over Walter Payton with the number one pick in this draft. And he's been getting shots fired at him ever since for it. And rightfully so in a lot of ways. How you don't take the greatest Chicago Bear of all time first is just stunning. I mean, if you go back and watch the show, which is available on YouTube, if you search CHGO and go into their videos, it's there. His reasoning was that he could get a running back later. So he wanted to take Hampton.
The next two are Walter Payton and Gale Sayers.
Right. And so me and Jake just jump all over that because I'm, sitting there at 3, I'm like, okay, I'm assuming Walter's going first. I didn't think Gale would go second. So I felt pretty good about getting Gale as the 3rd overall pick.
Yeah,
it was between him or Dick Butkus for me.
Dick Butkus goes 4th, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it works its way back, and then I take Urlacher after Ditka gets taken. So I had a little mixture. If you see my team with Gale Sayers, Brian Urlacher, Richard Dent, Super Bowl MVP. Then Charles Tillman. Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall, that's a good pick.
Right. Maybe the most talented wide receiver we've ever had, even though it was a short stint. Robbie Gould, the most clutch kicker of all time. Matt Forte
is a good pick, actually, too.
Right. So, that was kind of the thing was.
Oh, you picked Robbie Gould?
I took Robbie. Well, that was the thing. It's kind of like I treated it like how I treat my fantasy team, and I just wanted to fill all my positions.
Oh, you got Justin. Okay.
Right. So at the end, I went full meatball because that was my kind of plan was to stay away from quarterback until the end because you knew Jay Cutler was the first off the board, then Sid Luckman in the same round, and then later in the draft, as we got to the end, Herb took Eric Kramer, who holds the record for most passing yards in a single season, just under 4,000. We've never had a 4,000-yard passer. And then 29 touchdowns, most touchdowns in a single season. So he takes Eric Kramer, and then I'm left with, Jim McMahon would be the obvious choice. But I didn't grow up with Jim McMahon. I didn't see the Bears win that Super Bowl. I have all the respect for Jim McMahon. I got him over my shoulder here. That was the first live show we ever did here at Braggs in the Stands, and he was a nice guy. But I went full meatball, and I took Justin Fields, the most talented, quarterback, the most, has all the intangibles that we've never had when we've drafted a quarterback. So
could you have drafted Greg Olsen?
So Greg Olsen got drafted early. He was the first. He was the second. He was the second tight end taken after Mike Ditka. And that was kind of the thing for me was I was kind of left at the end because tight ends were all taken. There's not very many options. You have Ditka, then you have Greg Olsen, and then it just falls off the map after that. So I just figured stick with, old reliable Desmond Clark was my final pick. And, there was some discussion about who had the best team. I thought Jake, when we were doing the draft, Jake probably had the best team with Walter Payton, Mike Singletary, Sid Luckman. I mean, these are all Hall of Famers. Walter Payton, Mike Singletary, Sid Luckman, Jimbo Covert, George Hallis, Steve Mongo McMichael. All those guys are Hall of Famers.
Wow.
Then Mike Brown, George McAfee, Kevin Butler, Willie Gault, I think kind of falls off at the end. Mike Brown could have been a great safety had he stayed healthy. But my team, Gale Sayers, Hall of Famer, Urlacher, Hall of Famer, Richard Dent, Hall of Famer. I mean, to me, Peanut Tillman should be a Hall of Famer. Brandon Marshall, was he a malcontent in the locker room? Sure. But certainly one of the most talented wide receivers to play the game, has the most receptions in a single game. I think he has like the most receiving yards of any wide receiver to not play in the playoffs, I think is his claim to fame. So, that's his problem is he's never been to the playoffs. But Robbie Gould going to the Hall of Fame. Gary Fensick, is maybe one of the best safeties in Bears history. Jay Hilgenberg, a lot of people think should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not. And then, I put a futures bet in on Justin Fields. Maybe I didn't win this draft now, but 10 years from now, if Justin Fields ends up being the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history, then I'm thinking my team won. And that's kind of how I saw it, and that's kind of how the whole thing. It was a lot of fun, being in the studio, kind of kicking it back and forth. There were four of us, and just never been live in a studio like that before. We do all our podcasts from home like this, so it was just really cool to be a part of. Here was a little clip. And the pick that got the biggest reaction of all the picks for the day. It wasn't the number one pick. That did get a big reaction, but the most positive reaction of the day came from this pick. Here it is.
It's a Chicago Bears receiver that I love, and if I'm just picking like favorites here, Jeff Graham.
Oh, Jeff Graham.
Yeah. But you know who I like even more? Tom Waddle.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
We're going Tom Waddle. Put him on the board.
Tom Waddle makes the list.
Whatever. I mean, look,
solid.
We're talking about wide receivers who have had great Chicago media careers. It's Johnny Morris and Tom Waddle. I love Tom. Greg loves Tom. We all love Tom. So let's go Tom Waddle there.
There it is. Tommy Waddle taken in the 7th round. So that's the thing, it was.
Wow, Tom Waddle
was Tom the most talented wide receiver in Bears, history of Lord? No, but
love his effort in game, man. He went out there, he gave his all.
Right. So
even I recognize that watching the games, like man, who's that dude just out there getting creamed and getting up? Like, god damn.
Right. So Tom Waddle, it was a lot of fun. Again, shout out to the guys over at CHGO. You can check out if you go to on YouTube, search CHGO or search them on Twitter. They have all these new handles for Bears, Cubs, Bulls, and then their overall umbrella for the network or media outlet that they've just launched. So they do great work. They got some cool stuff, some cool shirt designs, and a lot of stuff. I went to a watch party on Friday night to watch the Bulls play, and a certain Trae Tunes. Yeah, you were supposed to go, and you stood me up at the altar.
This is what it was raining.
Blame yourself.
All right, no, this is what happened. It was raining like crazy that day, right?
Tell it.
I was. All right, Will. Listen, it was. It was raining like crazy that day, right? I was gonna because like my son get out of school at 3:30, and I said, okay, I was like, all right, if I go pick him up, then bring him back, then I gotta go right back out downtown because his school is on Roosevelt in Racine. So I was like, okay, let me just call him an Uber so I can just just go make the trip out there, get there a little early, find some parking. I know it's gonna be crazy. So, all right, at 3:30, the Uber was like $60, and I'm like, God damn! I said, why is it so much? It probably because it's raining. So I waited 30 minutes, and it went up to like $70, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm paying $70 for an Uber. So I had to go pick him up. My windshield wiper flies off of my window.
Oh my God.
In the middle of me driving. So I had to stop and buy the new windshield wipers. And then it turns out like a piece of the other, like a piece broke like on it. So I had to take one off. So I only got one windshield wiper on my side. Thank God. Because it was raining. It
was pouring in Chicago.
Right. Yeah. So by the time I got through traffic and picking him up and taking him back to my sister's house, it was already like 6:30 and stuff. I'm like, by the time I get down there, it's gonna be and you told me it was first come, first serve. So I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna make it down there in time.
Well, it didn't ever reach full capacity at the bar, but we were in the back patio and it was pretty crowded, and seats were pretty much all taken up by the time the game started, but there was still room there for you, but we missed you. That's okay. I won't hold it against you. I know you have responsibilities at home too that you gotta honor. It's not just all about Greg, even though I like it when it's all about Greg. But we'll be together again Saturday, May 14th, just a few weeks away at Buffalo Wings and Rings on Halstead, 35th and Halstead, just down the road from Comiskey Park. For our guys at the Collector's Cave, visit www.thecollectorscave.com for tickets, different signing packages, and they have memorabilia on their website. But you don't have to pay to come to Buffalo Wings and Rings if you want to just come and watch the show. But they'll have Jose Contreras there and Dustin Hermanson doing a public autograph signing and meet and greet while Trae and I are doing a live show with Johnny B. And we'll be talking shit and talking sports and having fun. And there'll be a lot of White Sox fans there. So full warning there for all you Cub fans that are going to make the attendance. Yes, I believe there's a Sox game that night. Notes it's the night of Sox Yankees. And I believe it's Tim Anderson bobblehead day that day. So that's right. Trophies for everyone. And that's what we're going to be doing. I'll probably go to the game that night. I think Johnny B and I probably will go. Trey's going to have to do a karaoke gig that night, so I don't know if he's going to be able to make the game. But if you're in the area or want to come by, please do so. We would love for you to come. That's right. Trophies for everyone. That's what we would want.
We would love for you to come. That's what she said.
That's what she said. May again. So the date is May 14th. Next week, I'll pull up a whole graphic to really drive this home, but it's Saturday, May 14th at Buffalo Wings and Rings on 35th and Halsted, Chicago, Illinois. It starts at noon. The signing starts at noon and goes till 3 with Jose Contreras and Dustin Hermanson. Trae and I will probably be there before that, setting up and getting started. And who knows how long we'll be going and bullshitting, but we would love for you guys all to come, show your support to us, and have some fun with us and have some drinks with us or whatever we're going to be getting ourselves into. But yes, we will be having some fun. So I'm going to probably wrap this up. Trae, you are welcome to stay on as late as you want. I know these guys want you to stay on till, midnight. Capitalistic Czar said, Trae said he's staying on till midnight.
No,
you're welcome to. You have all your graphics.
Not tonight.
You can do whatever you want. But I got to get to bed, and I still got to eat dinner. So it's totally up to you. Do you want to end this together, or do you want to stay on with your crew?
We're going to sign out together.
All right, we're going to sign out together. Be on the lookout. Maybe next Monday night, as long as nothing comes up, Trae and I will be doing another live show here, for the Braggs in the Stands, Trae Tunes, crossovers that you guys all know and love. Maybe we can convince Tommy Waddle to come on. Regardless, I will try to book somebody that covers the Bears. He needs Big Dollar Dave needs. Well, my computer doesn't crash like Trae's does, but maybe we can work that out for you next week. Maybe I'll find a way to shut my mouth for once, but I know that's easier said than done. No problem. Thank you guys, everyone in the chat, for hanging out. Schloob, good night to you, Ghost Rider. Appreciate all your support. Notes and Big Dollar Dave, Capitalist Exard, Demuccio, and everybody that was hanging out early on. Everybody. I'm not going to name them all. It's getting late. My wife might kill me. So I'm going to get off. Like I said, be on the lookout next week for an NFL draft recap show Monday night. Thanks, everybody, once again for hanging out. Trae, do you have any final thoughts?
Bye, everybody. It's been good doing the show again. I know ESPN switched their lineup up a little bit so that Carmen and Yurko are on from noon to 2. Yeah, 12 to 2. So 10's a little early for me. I could try to do a 10 to 12 show, but man, it's like, especially on days that I DJ, like maybe tomorrow might be the best bet, but
just go up against Carmen Yerk and rival them. I will pound sand Demuccio, I promise. I got a sandbox in the back that Eddie plays in. I'll go out there and pound it as soon as this show's over. But yeah, they kind of messed up your flow by changing the time. We saw Pat Bleck in the chat. They Bleck and Abdallah are no longer produce for Waddle and Sylvie.
Yeah, it's Tyler Aki and Jeff Meller.
Tyler Aki and Jeff Meller back with Waddle and Sylvie.
Yeah.
So,
and like Bleck and Abdallah, they do like podcasts. They like putting up more content for the channel because they do produce for Carmen and Yurko. So they produce for Carmen and Yurko.
They're produced for Carmen and Yurko.
Carmen and Yurko. Then at 2:00 they start. They put out their own like Bear Down podcast about the Bears. They got, I think, J Hood and Bleck do a basketball podcast. Until the bull season is over next week, and stuff like that. They're like helping produce more content for the show. Yeah, 10
So
to 12 is early.
they're the Swiss Army knife of ESPN 1000.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you are living in a contrarian world and you are just a contrarian girl.
Oh, man, I don't think my audio's working right now. I can't. You can't hear me play music. Yeah, it's not. I don't know why it's not working. Is it plugged in?
I don't know.
I don't know, but
it's all right. It's getting late.
Yeah, like I was just gonna play. It's a clip of Sylvie saying like, "Oh, we got to get Trae Tunes on the show to like be, like host or something. And when we have a remote, like we're gonna get Trae Tunes out here to do it." And then he never did it.
And then he never did it.
2 years ago. So I need your help, like rubbing that in his face.
We'll bust his balls as soon as we can. But hey, you never know. Maybe me and Trae got plans down the pipe. So stay tuned. We'll be doing live shows. We'll be doing crossovers. And who knows where Trae and I will go. Because I'll tell you what, Trae, wherever I go, I'm going to try to bring you up with me because you're a good man and a very talented guy who brings so much to the table, and all I have is my big old mouth. So,
What?
Yep. That's it. That's all I got is my big mouth. So, all right, guys, that'll wrap things up for tonight. Thanks again for everybody hanging out. Stay tuned next Monday night for another live show for a draft recap. We'll see if we can bring on some Bears personalities. But either way, for Trae Tunes, I am Gregory Braggs Jr. This has been a Braggs in the Stands Trae Tunes show crossover edition. Thank you again to C Red Fred, the infamous C Red Fred, for coming on. And everybody have a wonderful night. Stay safe.
Detroit, son. Detroit, son.